And to that piece of lieutenant that's always on his podcast, bash us, yeah.
Attention to roll call.
That's right. Good morning, everybody. 8:05 live Eastern Time. And, of course, it's Wednesday. It's the hump of the week. Here we go. More content from the Finest Unfiltered. Before we get into today's topic, of course, we're going to address who sponsors this episode, and that's the key. So if you're studying right now for sergeant, which you should be, you should always be studying. I'm just going to tell you this. Whenever it came time for an exam, sergeant, lieutenant, and captain, I was always over-prepared because I was always reading throughout my career. And when it came time to study for sergeant, I jumped into the key, and George Misfit was super motivating. It's a great class. They teach you how to learn, which is really important. And I thought the biggest takeaway, of course, was learning how to take the test, take the exam. Because when you take an exam, studying is half the battle, but you have to understand how to approach these exams, how to study. So, John, present one of our sponsors, the key, and let's jump into it. Good morning.
Yeah, I think a lot of you guys have been reaching out. So the code is, it's wherever you're watching or listening. You'll see the link to the key there, the NYPD's premier promotional school. So if you're looking to be a sergeant, and all you should be looking to be a sergeant, regardless of your situation, even if you're unsure about it, give yourself the opportunity, pass that test. And the code's going to be Finest Unfiltered 699. Class is normally $849 for the 18-week program, but you'll get it $150 off of that. So I know a couple of you guys were having issues on Monday, and just make sure the words Finest Unfiltered 699 are together. I did it myself, so I know it works. If you have any issues, I'll send you a little tutorial. Let me know. But yeah, absolutely, we're excited to be sponsored by the Key this episode, and I think the episode really ties in a lot as to why, the statement you just made, Eric, as to why everyone should always be studying, because, people are watching things on the internet and on TV, and you might know that they're right, or you might not know they're wrong, and you won't know how to explain them unless you know the procedures and the rules and the laws you're guided by. And that's what the Key teaches you. It teaches you how to ingrain that into your brain. So a video came out on about a use of force on a handcuffed suspect, and there's a lot of back and forth, a lot of different takes on it. I think obviously we'll all have our own opinions. Two retired lieutenants, former NYPD detective, we'll put our opinion in it, but it's going to be based off of NYPD policy and the law, more than emotion or more than how it looks. So I'm excited to talk about the topic. I'm excited that it's the Key, and like I said, wherever you're watching or listen to this, the Key will be down in the links. So right to the sergeant's class, and just put that Finest Unfiltered 699 in there. And again, like we said, they have classes all over the city, as well as their app, where you don't even have to necessarily go to the class. So make sure you check that out. If any of you guys need the flyer, let us know, hit us up. We'll get it right over to you, and we'll get you that link, and we'll get you that code. Take advantage of it. The code's only going to last for a very, very short time. All right. What's up, Marlon?
Yo, good morning, everyone. Good morning, chat. Who we got in here so far? I see Mikey G. I see Tom Joyce is in there, co-host of the 10-4 Tavern, and he had a great episode last night, guys. So if you happen to have missed that episode, it's worth going back and check it out. The former chief, now retired chief of detectives from LAPD was on, and it was very informational, regarding how LAPD does things, and how they're specifically, like I'm referring to their rank structure, and it's very different from ours. Very interesting. And I think a lot of people tend to think detectives as supervisors, but when you hear how LAPD's rank structure is, you kind of understand where that might have come from, because over there, detectives kind of do maintain that supervisory rank. They're kind of on the level of a sergeant. So it was a good show. So I encourage you guys to go back and watch it. But other than that, I see Terry Murnane in here, 92 Charlie, Detective Nolan, Mikey G, KB, and NYC. Welcome, guys. And I think we got a good show ahead today. And I think the chat's going to be on fire as well because there's a lot of takes on this.
You know what's interesting? It's by the way, good morning, friends and listeners, and some of Hassan's actually putting down here that it's code Mo. If you put code Mo, Hassan, you might end up paying double, and you might lose a couple of hair follicles. But yeah. Tom Joyce, awesome show yesterday, as always. Tom doing a great job. Ron Lason's here. Good morning, amazing aunt. Hassan, what's up, brother? And to Nolan, many others. Hunter, good morning, everybody. Listen, with that being said, I'll tell you this. It's kind of interesting and kind of fitting. Last week, John was on vacation, and it's interesting how Marlon and I touched on this conversation. We spoke on Monday, and we had a conversation. I don't even remember what led into it, but somehow we got on the topic of
The
what was it?
it was the apprehension of the perp from Gracie Mansion and the fact that there was a pylon and they were struggling to cuff him and all that.
Great point. That's how we kind of segued into it. So somehow, accidentally, we kind of foreshadowed this incident. And I remember some of our friends and listeners, and it's okay, I get it. And you're allowed your own opinion and perspective. But some of our friends and listeners were saying that once the cuffs come on, it's all bets off, hands are off. And I actually argued that. And I'm in opposition to that. And I said on Monday, the reason is when someone is in handcuffs, they still could be a threat. If you don't have that person under your custody and control, their head could be a weapon. And, from training, I know myself personally, many others, you could take your hips and your legs and your knees and your feet, and you can be very dangerous. If you know how to thrust your hips and really utilize your hips to swing your body, you could create a lot of leverage. You could actually do a lot of damage when someone's holding you, especially if you know how to use your head. You can use your head as a weapon. There's actually a martial art. It's similar to Muay Thai. It's called Lithway. If anyone's ever heard of Lithway,
Interesting.
You heard of it, Marlon?
No, I was saying it's interesting. I didn't know that.
Right, so Lithway, if you ever get a chance, a guy named David Duke, he's actually competes in Lithway overseas. He's an American, and it's Muay Thai, but also with headbutts. So Muay Thai means 8 points, but it's also with headbutts. And just to see how some people train in the way, I can't even do it myself. Some people, the way they whip their head, it's like a weapon. And the same thing when someone's in handcuffs. They could use their weapon, they could use their hips, they could use their body. And what did you see recently that went viral? A perpetrator trying to bite a cop. And that's very dangerous, right? So the point is, John, now that you're here, it's very fitting that it was just me and Marlon, and now that this happened, now the three of us can have this conversation. And what's interesting about it is that there's a lot of takes on this, but the reality is, is it ugly? Yeah, of course. Anytime you use force, it's not a pretty thing, especially when someone's in handcuffs. But someone trying to bite you and actually bite you and potentially biting skin, that is dangerous. And there's still a force that needs to be stopped. And physical force is necessary. And sometimes it's just brutal. It doesn't look pretty, but it's the nature of the beast. John, let's jump into it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think it's always like this confusion that, oh, well, once the cuffs are off, you can never touch someone again. And, like you just alluded to, once the cuffs are on, this person's still a danger, right? You're still allowed to use force in a lot of different times. Not that you should, because often it doesn't look good, but there's no threat there. Excuse me. The threat hasn't alleviated just because the handcuffs are on. And listening to cops and attorneys watch this video, and I'll play the video in a second and speed, and then we'll slow it down, and say that the person's no threat and the cop is hitting someone in a punitive manner. It tells me that these people weren't supervisors. They didn't interact in these situations enough. You know what I mean? They weren't involved in them enough, and they don't understand the NYPD Patrol guide, nor do they understand New York State penal law. So there's a lot of different things to go over here. But first thing I'm going to say is I recommend everybody to read the force guidelines. 22101 dictates use of force. It's based off the New York State penal law, right? That is, if we're going to have a conversation about who violated policy and who didn't violate policy, I mean, let's have a fair conversation about what the policy is. The same way that I watched people have a totally different take than I think all three of us have on the video. It's the same way I listen to people brush over what's written in this policy. And I'm like, well, you could go on a lot of things, but it clearly dictates what happens when someone's restrained in this policy. And I just want to read that part, and I want everyone to pay attention to what's being said here. So 22101, right? Use of force guidelines. We're gonna go to line 2, and we're gonna go line 2 says members of the service shall not. So this is on page 2 of the procedure, right? I'm sorry, page 3 of the procedure. There's all different terms, de-escalation. Read through that on your own. Read through all that, but we'll go over to page 2. On page 2 over here, on page 3, excuse me, line 2, it says members of the service shall not, right? And then it gives you what you can't do. Use a prohibited method of restraint. Use a chokehold. Now we're going to go over to page 3. Here we go. Use any level of force to punish, retaliate, or coerce a subject to make a statement. That's fine. Now D is where we need to focus on. Use any level of force on handcuffed or otherwise restrained suspects unless necessary to prevent injury, to prevent escape, or to overcome active physical resistance or assault. So, I mean, it spells it out right there. If someone's attempting to assault you, headbutt you, bite you, punch you, run away from you, you are, in fact, allowed to use force. What type of force are you allowed to use? A lot of different things. But one thing that we were trained to use in the academy is to take a closed fist and strike people to the ribs, right? Strike people to the ribs to gain pain compliance, to have them stop whatever they're doing, whether they're actively resisting arrest, whether they're attempting to assault you. That is a trained technique in the police academy. So right there, that is the guidelines that we're going to be discussing today, and what we're going to show you in real time what happened. Now, I never like videos that are just, here's the video, look how this looks, it's horrible, because I'll tell you, I got the video a bunch of times yesterday when Sal put it out. Sal Greco had put this out on his social media and basically said, this is not how you handle the situation. He made a couple of other comments. And then Eric Sanders basically called for, and some in substance called, that basically was saying that the cop should be arrested, that there should be a prosecution of the cop. And, when I first got the video, I was out and about. I clicked and I'm like, oh, that doesn't look good. But then I'm like, I'm not going to comment on it until I watch the video in its entirety. Like, I'm just walking with my phone in my hand. I didn't get a good look at it. And when you watch it, it kind of looks like you're like, oh, what was that? But then when you slow it down, you're like, wait a minute, I would have punched that dude in his ribs too. I might have done worse, so let's watch the video at first. Here's the video, not slowed down.
Send him up. Send him over.
Oh, I'm sorry, it started.
Send him up. Send him up. Send him over. Let him take him. John, you are responsible.
All right, so there it is. Clearly emotionally disturbed person walking around the streets in New York City. This appears to be last summer or last fall, because it's obviously warm out. This is not a new video. A person has no shirt on. The shirt appears to be on the floor, but we don't know where his shoes are, and appears to be heavily emotionally disturbed. And the cops have him in handcuffs, and you see the cop throw strikes to the individual's ribs. That's how the video comes out. And online, everyone's saying this isn't how cops should act. These cops abuse their authority. I'm like, do you know how to watch it? Do you know how to break down a police video? Do you even know what you're watching? Do you know police guidelines? Do you know the law? So what do you guys think? What were your initial thoughts upon seeing that video?
Well, to your point, oh, by the way, Hassan, I apologize, Hassan. I didn't recognize you. I always forget about you. You're right. But to your point,
Pay homage,
handcuffed
Marlon.
up, huh?
Pay homage.
Yeah, he says I never recognize him, So, my bad, right? But anyway, to your point, John, yeah, a handcuffed prisoner can be very dangerous. Okay, there's been multiple incidents in the past in NYPD where a handcuffed prisoner, a handcuffed prisoner who, in a lot of cases wasn't searched properly, which is ironic because there's also a video floating around. We're not going to get to it today, but there's a video floating around of a perp who wasn't tossed properly, right? But a handcuffed prisoner can be very dangerous. And we've seen prior incidents in the NYPD and other departments where they, while being handcuffed, still manage to kill or otherwise critically injure cops. Okay. So just because they're in handcuffs doesn't mean you can get all lackadaisical and not do your job. Okay. But my initial thinking on watching that video is that where is things headed? Because now we're seeing we're seeing perps like about to injure cops, right? Be it in this case the guy's biting, but in a we've seen that video with the EDP in Queens where he had a knife, and now we're questioning the cops' usage of force when they're about to get injured. Things have gone so far off the cliff that now you as a cop are going to get questioned when we can all see it on camera that you're about to get the perp is about to use potentially deadly force on you, and we're questioning it. We're questioning your usage of force. So I think things have gone off the cliff, and this guy was clearly about to, in the process of trying to bite the cop. Okay. So I don't think there's a debate whether, I really don't think there should be a debate whether he was, the force he used was authorized.
So I'm so glad that we're jumping into this. So my first take when I saw this video and I watched it, I said, great job to that cop. And if you watch when the cop deploys strikes, he was very controlled. He deployed strikes, very intentional to his ribs to get him to stop biting. And as soon as he saw the perpetrator in handcuffs stop biting, he stopped deploying strikes. He stopped immediately deploying strikes. So, I'm proud of that police officer. If you're watching this, I think he did a great job. I watched. He said he showed a lot of restraint, and he was very controlled, right? Because I believe there's a fine line between using force, right, and also being out of control, right? So he was using force and he was under control, and there's a fine line between being out of control. And I thought he did a great job. He was he was being attacked by a perpetrator who's in handcuffs, who was still a threat. Immediately he deployed strikes, and once the biting stopped, he stopped deploying strikes, and he went to different tactics as far as how to utilize force. So we have, excuse me, we have to talk about the big elephant in the room that people say is really not something you should pay attention to. But to me, I watched that video also, and it looks like the cops are very cognizant of the diaphragm law, because it would be very easy. All you have to do is put that guy either on his belly or put him on his back and put some pressure, put a knee on his back, put a knee on the belly, and put some pressure to the point that he can no longer bite. And also, the key also when you're engaged into a wrestling match or jiu-jitsu or any type of fight, and that's jiu-jitsu and that's wrestling, when someone is combative and you're not going to deploy strikes, is controlling someone's hips. And how do you control someone's hips? By putting pressure on their diaphragm. So the diaphragm law, in my opinion, while it hasn't been something that's been utilized, but people pretend it's not there, to me, I watched that video, and the cops look like they're very cognizant of it, and they're very aware of it. Also, I question, do people really understand force? Because I tell you right now, if and think about it, John and Marlon, if several men were trying to take control over you and they got your arms, you could still thrash your body. You could thrash your hips. You could thrash your head. You could still cause a lot of pain and injury. And I think people have this misnomer, and they think that if someone is handcuffed, that they're no longer a threat. Well, they can kick you. There's a lot of weapons there. They can hit you with their head. They can bite you. They can spit you. There are so many ways that they can hurt you. So it's the same thing. You know, it's not the movies. If you're in a fight or a confrontation, even if someone gets shot, they're still a threat. It doesn't mean if someone gets shot in their left arm that they can't punch you with their right arm. So the fight doesn't stop until the perpetrator is compliant. And every action causes a reaction. And I thought the cops did a great job. Immediately, he stopped. He showed a lot of control. What are your thoughts, guys?
You know, it's in 221 too. If you look at it, it's kind of written in there now. 22101. It's basically written in there that you can't put pressure on a suspect's neck or back any longer. So that's part of that. What these cops are dealing with too. So you know, I think all of these cops have been set up for failure since the Gardner incident. Again, we don't know how to take an individual down. We don't know how to take a suspect down to the ground. It's not a trained tactic. Your training starts with a handcuffed suspect on his stomach. You know, so that's where your training starts. And even that's a pretty volatile situation. I've heard a lot of takes about what the officer should have done while the EDP was attempting to bite him. So now, look, we're not dismissing use of force at all here. You know, I don't. We're not sitting here and saying, yeah, beat up those homeless, emotionally disturbed people that don't have no idea what's going on. That's not what we're saying here either. But what we're saying is cops could actually defend themselves from getting bitten. Getting bit or the potential someone attempting to bite you. Now, it didn't appear to me that he actually got the chance to bite the cop because the cop kept his leg back so far, but he was attempting to. Had the cop moved his leg closer to the individual's leg, he would have been bitten. Clearly, he's not just trying to bite the cop's pants leg, as a lot of former NYPD cops are saying. And I'm kind of lost on that. So a bite could cause you a minor physical injury. It could cause you a permanent physical injury. It could cause you disease. It could spread disease, and it could permanently disfigure you. So biting someone's not something that you should take very lightly, especially a homeless person who's been out in the streets. The potential for them to have AIDS, hepatitis B, just anything. I mean, the human mouth is just so disgusting and dirty that even someone who doesn't live in squalor and under like conditions where they're not taking care of themselves properly, you could potentially get a lot of different type of infections that could lead to your death, right? And so like it is kind of a life or death situation here. So we're not dismissing, oh yeah, this guy was a homeless EDP. We're not saying, yeah, beat them up, do it harder. We're not saying that at all. We're saying that the cop acted properly within the guidelines. You know, I'm looking at it from both the supervisor point of view, and I'm looking at it from how I would have looked at it from an internal affairs lens too. If a use of force would have came in, like a complaint would have came in that they used excessive force, I don't see anything excessive here. So when I got a chance, I went home and I slowed the video down. And here's what the video is going to show you. I want you to pay particular attention to the emotionally disturbed person biting the pants leg of the officer. All right, we don't need to hear that, right? So you see right there, look, he tried to take a bite, but he's got the guy's leg. So the guy steps back. He hits him once, hits him twice. He's hitting him in the ribs too. He could have cracked him in the face. He could have dropped his knee on his head. He could have punched him in the face. He didn't do any of that. He's hitting him in the ribs to let go. And as soon as he lets go and the cop realizes it, he stops hitting him and he steps away. So we've had numerous former NYPD cops and even some, commentators that were cops in Chicago, Dom Izzo, Corey Pegues, Eric Sanders, Sal Greco. They all said the cop could have ripped his leg he could have ripped his leg back, and the guy would have stopped biting. So I'm watching this. The cop has his legs spread out very far. I don't know how you rip your leg back without getting some force behind you and pushing your leg towards his face first and then stepping back. In the position that the cop was in, that was not plausible. So, I know a lot of guys think that they're martial artist experts and all that, but I know for a fact that when my legs are completely spread out and I'm cocked down, I can't just rip my leg further back unless I'm a gymnast that has an extra, I have all this extra flexibility, which none of us do. I mean, like, I don't know how any human could possibly do that without moving your leg closer to him, then to rip your leg back. So I don't know, like, that whole argument that he should have just ripped his leg back. Look how he's standing right here. Look, there's nowhere for him to rip his leg back to. It's and the individual did take a bite at him. So to me, this is it's completely justified use of force. It completely goes by the guidelines of what the NYPD goes out, and it's in line with self-defense rules as far as New York State penal law is concerned. So I don't see any issue here whatsoever. And then, like, what's the injury to the guy? What's the point of posting this, in my opinion? What's the point of us even having this discussion right now and this getting out there in the media? Marlon, come on, bro.
Yeah, no, my screen was freezing for a second.
Sure.
No, really. I was trying to get a screenshot of something, but like, what are they saying? That this cop should have done like a pirouette, like a ballet dancer or something, with all that weight around his waist?
They're saying right here he should have ripped his leg back.
Yeah. I mean, that's ridiculous. The cop is on, again, look at the position he's in, and keep in mind all the weight that the cop has on his waist. Okay, you expect him to play gymnast here with all that weight on him? Again, we've gone over the deep end when we're being critical of this incident, because, like John said, to me, the cop looked like he used the minimal necessary force needed to get the perp off of him. And, like, again, he stopped punching him when the guy stopped biting him. Okay. And kudos to him for not getting tunnel vision too, because I might have punched him in the head, just to get him off of me.
That's why I thought he showed a lot of control.
Yeah. I said, most cops would have punched him in the head or like pushed his head down onto the concrete just to get him off of him. But this cop, you can see how he's under control, and he knows what he's doing. And by the way, from the video, I don't know how much time he has on or his name or any of his info, but he certainly looks like the most experienced cop on that scene, because the other cops, you can see them kind of not knowing what to do, and they follow his lead. Once he gets his pants leg out of the perp's mouth, the perp finally releases it, right? You can see the officer puts pressure on the guy's head so that he can't lift his head up from the ground. And at that moment, you see the other officers realize, okay, let's put pressure on his shoulder, because one of the other cops like presses down on like his, what looks like his arm or his shoulder, his upper arm or shoulder. And so yeah, I think he's the most experienced on the scene, and I think the others were rookies. Okay, but for those of you civilians watching who think this is poor tactics, and I saw a couple comments on there that said, "Oh, these guys are using poor tactics." Keep in mind, like John said, these guys were handicapped from the get-go, and the reason why is let's go back to the diaphragm law. Okay, for those of you who do not understand this law and why this law is a serious problem. Okay, per the diaphragm law, okay, which was passed in 2020, when we were in amidst of all the BLM crap, right? Says kneeling or standing on the chest or back in a manner that compresses the diaphragm in the course of affecting affecting or attempting to affect an arrest is now illegal, okay? And that's the problem here, because now cops have to find a way to restrain a perp when you can't put pressure on their upper body, which is difficult because by not putting pressure on their upper body, these perps could pivot or use their lower body as leverage to lift up, or pivot from side to side and continue struggling or resisting arrest. And that's an inherent tactical disadvantage that cops have. And you can see it clearly in this video.
Yep. And just, Eric, before you go, I found it. It's 221.02, use of force. Line 11, apply no more than reasonable force necessary to gain control. Line A, sitting, kneeling, or standing on the chest, back of a subject in a manner that compresses the diaphragm, thereby reducing the subject's ability to breathe, is strictly prohibited. So they're not allowed to do any of it either, as per the law and as per NYPD Patrol Guide.
Listen, first of all, I question if some of the people, when they give their perspective, I even talked to cops. I'm like, what are you guys, out of your mind? Some of the people saying, oh, he should have had his legs out of the way. Are you serious? I mean, let's talk about, that's why there's a Supreme Court case called Graham versus Connor, because we're talking about what's happening in real time. And if anyone's, Hunter says, put honey in the tea. Yeah, these spring allergies been getting me, brother. But if anyone's ever been in a confrontation, sometimes things happen and you really don't even know what's happening or what you're feeling. So this cop actually, and let's keep this in mind, this cop actually might have thought he was actually getting bit, because when you're in a confrontation, sometimes things happen, you don't even know what happens. If anyone's ever been in an actual fight, or if you're training, sometimes afterwards, you're like, oh, I don't remember getting hit there. You grab your side or you feel something, you don't remember. You don't feel it while it's actually happening till afterwards, and the adrenaline starts to come down. I remember one time my sister-in-law was walking in Queens, and she was walking a dog, and there was a local EDP who stabbed her in the back, and she thought she got punched. She thought she was, and she kept walking. She just thought, oh, wow, an idiot punched me in the back, and she kept walking until she got home, and someone said, hey, you're bleeding. She didn't even know that she was stabbed. So if anyone said, oh, he should have kept his leg back, and those are poor tactics, I mean, I think we're getting way down to too much minutia. I think the cop showed a lot of control. He could have easily grabbed the back of his head and smashed on the ground and knocked all his teeth out. They could have took him by the legs and swooped him back, and his face would have hit the ground. They showed a lot of control. Excuse me. They showed a lot of control. And we have to also realize Graham versus Connor. What's happening in real time? What did those cops think what was happening? What did they feel? That cop, in my opinion, probably thought he was actually getting bit. And the reality is, if you are getting bit, you may not know it until afterwards. But the reality is, to me, it appears he thought he's getting bit, and he deployed strikes, and he showed control, because as soon as the perpetrator stopped and he was in position that they had better control. And look at that point right there, John. If you go back, he tries to bring his leg back at that point. He's pretty cognizant of it. He's trying to get himself in a situation where it doesn't happen again. And why are we putting so much emphasis on the cops? Why don't we put emphasis on the perpetrator, the emotionally disturbed perpetrator that is a threat biting the cops? But the cop has to be so cognizant of his actions. Perpetrator should be cognizant of his actions as well. I think the cops did a great job. I think they did. Unfortunately, punches look ugly, but it's these laws and policies that put cops in these positions because of the diaphragm law, because of the chokehold ban. It would be very easy if there wasn't a chokehold ban for one of the cops to get on top of him and put him in a rear naked choke. Believe me, if you put him in a rear naked choke, the biting would stop. If you put pressure on his stomach and he can't, and he loses some wind, well, then he's not going to be able to bite. If you're controlling his hips, he's not going to be able to bite. It's not an easy situation. Even if you have training, I trained a lot. And even with training, it's very hard to control another human being, especially when you're a cop. These cops, their job is to try to gain custody and control and not cause injury. They're not trying to hurt this perpetrator. You can see that. They're just trying to gain compliance. It's far different when you're trying to hurt someone. And that's why cops are always at a disadvantage. They're not trying to hurt him. They're just trying to gain custody and control. And there's a big difference, and there's a big dichotomy right there.
Dude, it's infuriating, bro. It's like, watching a video and then watching cops like talk about a video and they have no idea what they're talking about. Like Hunter, we know you didn't take the key, brother. So we'll they tell you once the cuffs are on, it's over on using force. So yeah, you don't just hit people for no reason when they're in handcuffs. But when someone's biting you, headbutting you, attempting to run from you, kicking you, you still have to use force in those situations, Hunter. And that's why we read the Patrol Guide 22101 to you, so that you could understand that you actually can continue to use force in certain situations. So if you would have took the key, you would have known that, right? Obviously, you didn't. So I think these cops did a great job. I don't see anything wrong with this from a supervisory standpoint. Now, listen, what's good? Let's face the reality of this. Now, this video has just surfaced. CCRB has seen it. IAB has seen it. There was definitely a use of force report generated as a result of this action. And so what happens is immediately upon a use of force report being generated, immediate notification to the Internal Affairs Bureau, immediate notification to the CCRB. So these cops get investigated by the Internal Affairs Bureau, by the CCRB. And now, again, that this incident has surfaced again, and now people are saying different things, there'll be another ensuing investigation for the cops responding to a 911 job, putting someone in handcuffs, trying to get them treatment, and then the person biting them as a result. Now, they're kind of limited as what we showed you on what they could do to keep control of him. No one that is commenting on this is saying exactly what the cops should have done differently. He should have just got bit, apparently, is what I'm hearing. Well, he should have just let himself get bit. Oh, he was just biting your leg. I'm like, I could tell people never been in this situation. Just put it that way, because I know myself, I get a little squirmy even in situations. Like, Eric, if someone tries to bite you or if something's gross there, you're gonna get a little squirmy, like, ugh. Like me,
Absolutely.
Trying to bite
Absolutely.
me. I know myself. I would have probably hit his face to keep his face away from my leg, because I would have been like, ugh, because I don't want to get bit, because I don't want to get AIDS, and I don't want to get anything.
I see grown men afraid of spiders. You talk about afraid of spiders, and then of course, if someone's trying to bite you, you're gonna be, John. I agree. You're gonna be squirmy, and not only that, did people forget about tuberculosis, things like that? I mean, there's some nasty disease out there.
Yeah. No. Yeah. What is like? So Nen, just use your real name, dude, because you're a coward. Eric, with his classic bully logic, I could have done so much worse to you, but I didn't. Whatever. This dude's a loser, man. Like,
right.
again, that's why you
exactly
wanted. That's why you wanted a supervisor. That's why you didn't study, because you don't know what you're looking at. That's why you were a race baiter. That's why you were playing politician with the Guardians. That's why you were doing all that bullshit, because you were never a cop, bro, and you never understood it.
Yep, still doesn't understand it either.
Yeah.
You know what, the cop should have played, the cop should have done a pirouette. The guys do a pirouette anytime the purpose trying to bite your leg and you're trying to arrest them. Just do a pirouette. Now the problem is, again, like we said, if you can't put weight on their upper body, it makes it extremely difficult by yourself to put a perp in handcuffs. Whereas one guy back in the old days, and I've done it, it was just me, and I put a guy in handcuffs, and I've done it several times. Okay, by using my weight, my weight effectively becomes an extra cop. I put it on their shoulder, and then I'm able to free up my hands to grab one of them and put them in handcuffs. And once I got the first hand, it's just a matter of finishing the job by getting the other hand. But if cops are no longer allowed to do that, think of it. You now need 4 guys. And even with 4 guys, we've seen videos of the perp still struggling and still moving around, and guys are still struggling to put them in handcuffs. So you see the baseline problem here is the diaphragm law. And This is why I keep talking about this, because I believe that a cop is going to get hurt, okay, or an incident is going to turn sideways because the perp is still struggling, flinching around, and even under a pylon, nobody knows who exactly has his hands, because again, your view is obstructed when you're 5, 6 guys on top of a perp trying to grab his hands. Okay, somebody's going to get hurt, okay, unless there's something done about this. And we know 1PP is watching this. You unions, you're all watching this right now, okay? You need to mount a challenge, okay? I don't know how you're going to do it, okay? But you all have lawyers, that people that get paid handsomely to think about this stuff, okay? You need to mount a challenge to the diaphragm law, okay? Before something goes wrong, before an incident goes wrong. And in this case, that cop could have easily been bitten by the perp, right? And he would have had God knows what right now. So,
what's interesting to me is, how do we get to this point? And we got to this point because we have city council members with baby soft hands who've never been involved in any type of battle in their lives, any confrontation, right? And I'm not saying you should be violent in your life, but I'm telling you what, you have to stand for something. And if you've never gotten to a confrontation, whether it was argumentative or an actual physical confrontation, then you never stood up for anything in your life. Let's be honest. And we have city council members with baby soft hands who've never gotten into a confrontation and took away the biggest, most important key element to actually hold a perpetrator under custody and control. And that's why I said, to hold someone down, you need to control their shoulders and their hips. That's the most key points. And if you do knee on belly or knee to someone's back, that's how you control their shoulders and their hips. That's how you get someone to stop throwing punches, to stop thrashing their body, to stop kicking. If people think, just try it with a little kid. You ever see little kids get into fights in school or things like that? What happens when a little kid falls on the ground? What happens when a little kid falls on the ground? They start kicking their legs. Or maybe if you ever play with your kids, and if they're laying down, you try to wrestle with them, they up kick their legs, right? Constantly. They thrash their legs. And if you get kicked, that's going to hurt. I tell you, I use this example often. If you hold a 2-year-old baby, just a baby, and the baby by accident points their finger in your eye, guess what? That's going to hurt. That's going to throw off your equilibrium for a second. It's going to throw off your eyes. And I think those cops did a great job. People are way too critical. Oh, he should just pull his leg back. Has anyone, I've been bit by perpetrators. Has anyone ever been in a situation where a perpetrator is trying to bite you? Or has anyone ever had a dog bite on your pants? Try pulling away. And the same thing for a human. The mouth becomes a vice. There's a lot of pressure, a lot of strength behind that. So just say, oh, he can just rip his pants back, then people really don't understand confrontation, understand physical force. Someone's mouth becomes a vice. Yeah, you could pull hard enough and maybe they'll break their teeth and you'll get your foot out, but maybe you won't. Maybe you won't. It becomes extremely strong in a vice. And I just think people really don't understand, especially city council that came up with these stupid diaphragm laws with baby soft hands, have no idea what it is to get into a confrontation, or just even playing sports, boxing or wrestling or even basketball, right? If you're anyone who plays basketball, right? Here's a sport. You can say it's not fighting, but there is some wrestling involved, right? If you're playing basketball, John, we love basketball, and you're underneath the hoop and you're battling someone, boxing out, and you're trying to get the rebound, you're wrestling, right? You're using your bottom. And what is the ultimate goal? Is that you use your hips and you use your back. Think about it, John, right? Because we both love basketball. You're using your back, you're using your hips to get into a position so that someone can't control you. And that's not using your hands. And if anyone's ever played basketball, you can get elbows to the face, you can get someone's hip knocks into you, and it hurts. So people don't understand that a handcuffed prisoner is still a threat. I think these cops did a great job. Honestly, they did a fantastic job. They did what they could in real time.
I totally agree. Anthony says, love you guys, but cops need to read the climate of society. 1PP is going to throw you under the bus for that punch. So look, we're not saying to go out there and beat people up for the 100th time, but you're in a really bad spot here. Whatever happened, you got in this spot, dude. You're cocked over him in a squat position, and he's attempting to bite you, right? And now you got to get out of it. You are justified to use force in this situation. What's your other alternative? Like, what's your alternative here? Get bit? Like, I don't understand what people are saying. If I pull my legs out in this situation, more than likely, I'm exposing my nutsack to his mouth next because I'm going to fall. I'm going to fall on top of his head with my balls on top of his head, and he's going to bite my nuts. I'm not doing that. Like, I'm sorry. Like I don't like this. That's a really big. Do me a favor. Just squat down like you're squatting weight on your back, and then kick your leg out. Tell me how that works. And then tell me how you're going to do that when there's actually force being pulled and there's a rabid human who's trying to get you. You know? So, like, we're not sitting here and saying, hey, yeah, go out, beat those guys up. Yeah, do that. We're not saying that at all, dude. We're just saying you're in a bad position. You have the ability to still protect yourself. Handcuff perps, handcuff EDPs, they do not get a free pass at assaulting cops. That's all we're telling you. They don't get a free pass. You still have the ability to protect yourself. Because you're in this bad spot does not mean you have to go home with either a chunk missing out of your legs or telling your wife, yeah, we can't have sex anymore because I have AIDS. You know, like, that's what we're telling you. Like, this is not a game here, people. Like, who gives a shit about the CCRB? Who cares if you lose days? Like, honestly, at this point, who cares? Like, it is what it is. You're in the situation. This is the job that you chose. This is the life that you chose. You're in the most scrutinized profession that's ever been in human history. There's more scrutiny for what you do on these streets every day than there is for a brain surgeon, a doctor, someone operating on kids. You are the most scrutinized individual in the world. You raised your hand. You swore an oath to do it. And so what? You're going to just be a victim? I'm just going to lay down and let people bite me, and I'm just going to let them do whatever they want to me because CCRB told me to and the laws told me to. Dude, leave the profession if that's your mindset. Like, get out. Because I'm telling you, bad things. Don't walk in New York City streets and become an NYPD cop and just pray to get lucky for 20-something years. Like, don't do it, because this is a very, very dangerous situation. These cops were in a very bad situation. This cop clearly was not throwing these punches to be punitive. Again, I would have been more afraid. I would have been punching his face to get to loosen his mouth up. I would have either punched his face or I would drop my knee on his face. More than likely, I would have been punching his face because I wouldn't have wanted to expose my nutsack to him, because that's the neck thing that's getting bit. I would have been punching his face. I wouldn't even have thought to punch his ribs. Soft target, not supposed to hurt. I think great job all around. I'm giving these guys a high five. I'm clearing them if I'm the boss on the scene. There is not an excessive use of force here. I'll go down to CCRB and fight for them as well. It's bullshit.
Yeah, spot on, John. Spot on. Listen, if you're afraid to do your job, we said this before, right? If you're afraid to do your job, then you need to leave. You need to find a different job or find a different department. Okay. If you don't think you can be the kind of cop you want to be, then you need to leave the job, go find a different job. Okay. But you need to do your job if you're gonna be here. And doing your job means not getting hurt also. Okay. It means knowing when to use force and knowing how to explain why you used force when you used when you used it. Okay. So like John, I don't understand those comments either. Okay. Because what are you supposed to do here? Okay. All right. If you cannot explain yourself why you used force here, then I'm not sure you know how to explain using force in any other incident, period. Okay. Because again, we showed you the patrol guide, and we showed you the diaphragm law and how it applies and all that, right? If you don't know that, right, then you're setting yourself up for failure here. Okay. So it's either you know it and you know how to explain yourself and know how to explain usage of force, and you're gonna do your job, or you find a different job.
You know, there's a great point to bring up here, and John, you and I were just talking about it. There are so many diseases that could be transposed to a cop, involve these situations. Someone could have tuberculosis, they could have AIDS, they could have various types of diseases, right? Look, tetanus shots are not even good for 10 years anymore. They're good, it's only good for 5 years, so to show you how many diseases are out there. But the bottom line is, a cop, not only do you have to protect yourself and protect others, but you also have to protect your family. So, John, you made a good point, right? You have to make sure to protect yourself so you don't bring these things home to your family. Something I was always concerned about, right? We should all be concerned about, right? if you're married, if you have kids, you have to make sure that you don't get sick, because you could bring that home to a loved one, right? You got to make sure that you don't, God forbid, you don't contract HIV, you don't get hepatitis, you don't get tuberculosis, and you have to protect yourself. Someone biting, not only, it's not just a short-term pain and injury that it could cause in the moment, but the reality is you can get a disease that you can end up bringing home. I have no issues with the cop defending himself. I thought he showed a lot of control, a lot of restraint. But he did a great job. He used the resources. People don't like the punches. They think they're ugly. But I think there's a lot of options he could have taken that would have been far worse and far worse outcomes. He could have grabbed the top of his head, as I said earlier, bashed it to the floor. He could have knocked his teeth out. There's so many different things. But the reality is it's these laws and policies that have been implemented by legislators, by the city council, that have caused the cops to have to utilize strikes even more than before. So taking away the ability to put weight and pressure on someone's hips and shoulders actually puts cops in a position where they have to utilize strikes. So I think that the irony of this is the city council wants soft hands and they want a soft touch, but you put the cops in a situation where they actually have to use far more brutal tactics to get the job done, right? Because you took away the ability to put the pressure. So now cops are in a position where they have to use brute force, and that brute force is deploying strikes. I mean, we are getting some really stupid, silly comments here today. I think it's entertaining. You know, people like Nin and Juju. And I also have to question some of the people I spoke to and some of the people that you mentioned here, you know, talking about Corey Pegues and other people. You know, I like Corey, people that I like, but we have to call the reality is I have to kind of question what situations were people in? And you have to kind of question what kind of cops were they? Because if you were never in a situation where you can't understand the situation, you can't see that the cops did their job, then I have to ask, what were you doing out there? Because obviously, I don't expect police enthusiasts or someone who's a civilian to really understand this, right? But cops see things that others don't see. And when we break this video down, I see a lot happening here. I think the cops did a great job. And people say, oh, just get your foot away. Well, it's not that easy. It's not that easy. And look at the way he's biting his pants leg. And pulling away is not that easy either. So anyone who's saying, just pull away, you really don't know what you're talking about. And also, I'm glad that we're talking about civilian complaints and things like that and doing your job. We often say on this platform, people will ask us, what's our advice to brand new cops, to rookies, or if anyone's that's taking the job. So here's my advice. You have to either go all in or get another job. And unfortunately, if you are doing your job appropriately and you're doing your job as a New York City cop, you will get civilian complaints. There's no doubt in my mind that these cops will get substantiated for civilian complaints, as ridiculous as it is. But so what? Who cares? The bottom line is, if you are doing your job, you will have civilian complaints. You'll be up there with me as the most complained cop. We'll be on par if you're doing your job. That's the reality. Because these cops did their job, and unfortunately, in this environment, they will get a civilian complaint. So as Marlon and John said, if that is your concern, you have to get another job. Because if you're all in and doing your job and you're going to protect yourself, and you should love yourself to protect yourself enough from the perpetrator on the street and CCRB, then you have to do your job. So it's either all in or all out.
You know, dude, I just, you know, we've lost the plot in policing, and I think we've lost the plot in society. Like, we can't differentiate right from wrong anymore. It definitely happened prior to the Gardner incident, but after that, it was just completely haywire, where we're letting the public, the uninformed public, dictate what is reality is and what actually happening. You got Fabulous DJ here. A handcuffed prisoner can and have been dangerous. However, this guy is meager, frail, and didn't need that extra punches to gain cooperation. I mean, did you not see him biting the leg of the officer? Like, what are you talking about? You know? And then Anthony asks, you think that use of force is going to be deemed not excessive by the public? You're a police officer, you're worried about what the public thinks? Everything you do is illegal. You issue a summons, you're corrupt. You arrest somebody, you're corrupt. You use force, you're corrupt. You're worried about what the public thinks about you? Honestly? Like, where were you trained, dude? Like, what do you do each day? Like, put your papers in, vest out, honestly. Because if you're worried about the public, you're going to get killed, dude. You're going to be that dude that's like, yeah, no, you know, I had to let him bite me. I had to let him bite me, and now I have AIDS, and my life's gonna go down the tubes, and I can't sleep with my wife anymore, and I can't enjoy any of my life because I was so worried about my pension, and I was so worried about what the public thought about me, and I was so worried about what Jamani Williams and Tiffany Caban were gonna say about me that I lost sight of reality and didn't realize that I was in a life and death situation. And I just allowed myself to be a victim instead of defending yourself and defending others. You're in a really, really bad spot, dude. Like, honestly, if that's the mindset, you're in the wrong. I always said the day I am afraid to go out on the streets of New York City, that's my last day. I'll put my papers in because I'm going to get killed. But, and I knew that before I was a cop. I told all you guys that originally, like, I'm not shy as a kid. I'm a nice guy. I'm not a tough guy, but I don't never let myself get abused. I never let myself get abused physically, emotionally, ever. I don't care how big you are. I don't care if you're going to kick my ass or not kick my ass. It doesn't matter to me. And I've always been like that my whole life. And I thought prior to taking this job, could I actually do that job? Am I cut out to do the job? And then I saw all the kids that were taking the job, and I'm like, well, if I can't do the job, then nobody can do the job because these guys are all scared of their own shadow. They're all afraid of their own shadow. And so I think you really got to start to understand the profession that you're in here and the reality and the gravity of these situations. These are the use of force guidelines. This is how you're going to articulate why you use force. You're going to be judged. Life is unfair. You're going to be unfairly judged. That is the profession you chose. That is the life you chose. The thing is that we're talking about here. We're talking here like this person was murdered. He got punched in his ribs 4 times. And you know what happened to him? Nothing. He went to the hospital, got care, and he was uninjured. Like, I don't even know what we're talking about anymore. Like, honestly, everyone has lost the plot. We've become such we talk about the NYPD getting emasculated. Society has been emasculated to the point that it's like, I feel bad for these girls. I really do. Honey, I just had to let him punch you in the face because, it just is what it is. He just let him bite you. Just let him bite you because I don't want to use force because the public's not going to like it. Because, the socialists aren't going to like it. I don't know, man. This is the comment that Sal put out on this. And look, Sal got wrongfully terminated by the NYPD, but he's lost the plot a while ago. And, obviously that's why he's no longer on this network. Right. And I love Sal. I got no hard feelings for him. I don't at all, but the truth is the truth. He don't know what the hell he's talking about in this situation. He has no idea what he's talking about. Same goes for Dom Izzo. Same goes for Eric Sanders. Same goes for the 26-year-old police expert, Jack Stern, who never policed a day in New York City streets. I will debate any one of them or all of them at this
Wait, hold on. You don't think Jack can handle the situation? Come on now.
Yeah. Jack he'll be crying. He'll be calling 911. Help me.
I think, you telling me Jack wouldn't be able to hold him down?
And so, like, whoever has an issue, Corey Pegues, like, look, we're civil. You guys can come on here and debate the point of what it is. But this is what he put out. He said, this recent video is circulating on TikTok. This is what not to do to someone who is securely handcuffed. Once they are handcuffed, the battle is over. Actions like this erode the public's trust in the police. What the hell was this police officer thinking?
Wrong.
I'll tell you what he was thinking, Sal. He didn't want to get AIDS. I'll tell you what he was thinking. Because that's what you would have been thinking. That's what I would have been thinking. He didn't want to get bit. And that's exactly what was happening. And so, I don't, look, I'm not, he made a comment back a while back. I don't sensationalize things. Dude, all you've been doing is sensationalizing things. That's all you've been doing. You made something out of absolutely nothing. And honestly, you're just trying to get cops jammed up for absolutely no reason. It makes no sense to me. I'm sorry. It doesn't.
I just want to say, Marlon, before you give your take on this, I just want to say anyone who says that when the handcuffs are on, the battle is over, you've never been in the battle. And I'm saying this, these are people that I like and respect. Listen, I love Sal. We could disagree. I love Sal. On a personal level, I love Sal. When it comes to our perspectives and moving forward, obviously we have to take different paths. But I don't agree on these takes at all. And I have to ask, what battles were you in? And that goes for Sal. That goes for Corey. I love Corey. But if anyone who says the handcuffs are on, the battle is over, you're out of your mind. As I tell you right now, let's do a test. put handcuffs on me with Corey and Sal, and try and see what happens if I try to bite you or try to thrash my body. You will have to punch me. There's no doubt about it. Anyone thinks that you won't have to punch me or jump on my back to try to hold me down, you're out of your mind. That perpetrator was kind of malnourished and thin, and he was still a threat. Could you imagine John or myself or Marlon, someone who's well fed in shape? It's a far different issue. Anyone who says the battle is over, you need to think again. Maybe the battle has changed, right? The battle is different. The perpetrator is handicapped, but they're still a threat. They don't have arms, but they still have legs. They still have a mouth. And I honestly, just try it. You ever try to tickle someone, or you're kidding around, you're tickling your kid, and they start thrashing their body, right? You're trying to hold them down, right? What happens? They're thrashing their body, and it kind of throws you around, right? Because you're not trying to hurt them, and the cops are not trying to hurt the perpetrator either.
Wait, and just then, first of all, we know that you report us every episode, so honestly, no one cares. Nobody cares. This is an educational episode. The title of this episode: Can police use force on a handcuffed suspect? NYPD policy explained. We're explaining the policy, so report away, you coward. You're not even a man. I have no respect for you. You were never a cop. If it was up to me, they would remove your pension because it was useless. You, Eric Adams, and the rest of you cronies, like the rest of you people who became cops to become politicians or whatever the hell else you thought you were going to be, because you're a zero racist. So I could care less what you report. We're not instructing anyone to use people towards violence, and we're not misusing our titles as retired cops to control the narrative. No, we're giving our honest opinion here, and we're telling you what the NYPD policy says. You're the one that's saying that you want cops who did absolutely nothing wrong and who almost got bit to go to jail. You're the one.
Listen, Ron Layson. Sorry, Mom. I just so hard to get off this topic, dude. Be the most complaint cop. But Ron Layson says it right here. Spot on, brother. I love you, man. He says, Eric, I have a hard time controlling a 2-year-old changing her diaper when she's thrashing her legs. Exactly. Because you're not trying to hurt your kid. You're just trying to control them. It's the same thing. A cop is in that disadvantageous position where they're trying to control a perpetrator, but they're not trying to cause injury. I tell you right, if the cop wanted to hurt him, if those cops wanted to hurt him, they could have easily done it. Right, John? Marlon, don't you agree? But they're just trying to stop him. They wanted to hurt him. They could have used a lot worse tactics, a lot more hateful in their strikes. You can see there's no emotion involved. I thought the cops did a great job. Honestly, awesome.
Yeah. Look, reflexively, that cop could have kicked the perp in the head. Okay, I mean, there's just so much that could have been done. Again, we talked about it before about he could have punched the perp in the head, but he didn't. He was controlled, and he didn't get tunnel vision, and he used the minimum necessary force to get the perp off of him. And the thing is, if you're thinking that a perp in handcuffs cannot be dangerous, like John said, I wonder what situations you've been in, because I've had a perp in handcuffs while we were transporting him to central booking, kick the window out of the RMP. Okay, he kicked the window out, and then I've seen perps handcuffed try to escape by running away. Okay, so just because he's in handcuffs, it doesn't mean he's no longer a threat. And he can and again, I mentioned the prior examples of handcuffed perps shooting cops while being handcuffed in the back of an RMP. So just because a perp is handcuffed doesn't mean that he's any less dangerous. Okay, and the thing is also, if you're so worried that you're going to get in trouble, okay, and that you can't do your job properly, again, you need to leave, okay, because you're going to get CCRBs, you're going to get all sorts of oversight bodies to come down on you for all kinds of nonsense on this job, okay? The most time I've ever had CCRBs was when I was in the FIO's office, okay, I got CCRBs on search warrants, okay, right? And that's when ESU already ESU does the entry for us and puts everyone in handcuffs for us, okay? And I'm still getting a CCRB. So you're going to get CCRBs just doing your job. I mean, you can't be worried about it. You have to understand why you did what you did, though, and be able to articulate it, okay? And the other thing is, one last thing is, you shouldn't shy away from that either, because in fact, I almost used to, it almost used to be fun to go to CCRB and have to explain it to these children, these kids who just got out of high school and know nothing about life. Okay. Nothing about life and nothing about policing. Okay. It's fun to actually go and explain it to them when they think they got you. Okay. And you explain it to them and you walk out of there knowing that you did a good job, you explained it properly, and they're getting nowhere with their CCRB. So what? Giving me a CCRB all day. As long as if I could explain myself, you ain't going nowhere with that CCRB. Okay.
Look, here's the other thing, and I think we all got to be real about this, right? There's people that wear the uniform and they're not actually cops. I used to say all the time, I used to joke like with guys when they would talk crap. I would always say, I would be like, I could drive past you with my shirt off and blow weed smoke at you and you won't do anything. But if my mother drives past you doing 1 mile an hour over the speed limit, you'll give her a summons because you're a coward. Right. And that's the truth of the matter. There's people that have made arrests on this job that they pick and choose who they arrested. So they've never been in this situation. They would have been stepped back in this situation. Like, I don't know. They would have let the other cops do the work. Right. They would, I'm just putting my gloves on in the background, right? Cowering away from the situation. And then there's the guy that goes headfirst into everything. Right. He's going to help out. He's going to try to do everything. And he's out there. He or she are out there going after bad guys. Now, look, if you arrested a lot of people, but they happen to be women who you pulled over in a checkpoint and they blew .03 and you were collaring them for DWI, I mean, because she admitted that she had a glass of wine with dinner, you weren't a cop. It's just the reality of it. Like, you weren't a cop in that situation. So I just wanted to talk on that, but let me go because this one's going.
Let me go quickly again. I'm sorry, Eric. I see a comment here from JDP. It says, Marlon, you're wrong. There's no beating CCRB anymore by properly articulating your actions. Your case is substantiated before you walk. It doesn't matter. Just to go back on that, right? It's not CCRB that's the issue in that case. It's the job. It's the NYPD. Okay, it's the NYPD. Because if the NYPD and these chiefs and the upper echelon wasn't kowtowing to the leftists in the city, you'd be fine. Okay. The problem is in CCRB. CCRB are morons. They don't know the job. They don't know policing. They're kids who just got out of high school who don't know anything. Okay. The problem is the job. Okay. The problem is your unions, and the problem is your job, the executives in 1PP who do not push back and who do not do their job by trying to protect you. Okay.
Listen, let's be honest. I don't even understand why people are being so critical of the cops. That guy on the floor right now is an animal. He's trying to bite the cop and trying to hurt him. What normal person tries to bite someone on their leg, right? Whether they're emotionally disturbed or not. This person is an animal right now trying to hurt those cops, and the cops have a right to defend themselves. They are people too. They have family at home to protect. They have themselves to protect. They have the citizens to protect. If anyone has a problem with these cops protecting themselves, then you really need to think about who you are, right? I have a problem with you. If you have a problem with these cops trying to protect themselves, then I have a problem with you. And I'm honestly, you've never been in this situation yourself. You can't empathize or sympathize with it, and you can't actually understand it. And John, that's a great point. I say this often. There are police officers, and then there are cops. And not every police officer is a cop. There's a far difference. If you're cherry picking who you arrest and who you give a summons to, well, then you're not a real cop. You shouldn't pick the face and shouldn't pick the nomenclature of the perpetrator. The perpetrator picks you. Now, LOL JK9443 talks about this, and so does Mike Smith. And Mike Smith, you guys are spot on. Good morning, by the way. So LOL says, I've been bit in the calf and the shoulder by EDP perps, EDP, emotionally disturbed persons. Anybody who's saying to allow them to bite you is a moron. I'm with you. I agree. A bite sucks. I was bit by a perp, and I had to deploy numerous strikes at a perpetrator's face because the perpetrator was biting me so hard. That is, bite my hand. Bite my hand when I try to put cuffs on him. So anyone who says you're a moron, a bite is, I mean, it's just like getting cut. They're really trying to think about that. They're trying to slice you open. Clearly, they've never been involved in these scenarios or took the cocktail 2 times. So, LOL, JK is saying that he took the cocktail twice, or she. I don't know if it's a man or woman. He took the cocktail twice. Anyone who knows that if a cop's in a situation where they get bit or exposed to transmittal diseases such as tuberculosis or hepatitis, they have to go out on what's called a cocktail. And many cops get some pretty adverse side effects from it, where they're sick for an entire month. So now, because we're allowing cops to get bit, we have a cop that's out sick, cops going through issues. We have one less cop on the street because they're being tended to because they're sick on a cocktail. Absolutely ridiculous. Anyone who thinks you should just let someone bite you, well, then you don't have respect for cops. You don't have respect for fellow humans. No one should allow someone to bite them. Why is it? If we were to take this picture right now, I just want to show you how people, where their ideology is. If we were rhetorically, if we took this picture, and Marlon, maybe you could do it with a meme. You're good with that. Let's replace this perpetrator on the floor with a dog. And if the dog is biting at the cop's leg, would anyone have a problem with the cop? Would they just say, oh, just pull your leg away? In reality, you could shoot that dog, right? Now, we're not saying to shoot this man because it's a person, but everyone would be like, oh my God, look, the dog's biting him. And people would use some significant force. But because it's a person, things are different. Well, this person right here is acting like an animal by trying to bite someone. It needs to be dealt with properly. And the cops did a great job deploying strikes. You have a right to protect yourself.
Yeah, 100%, dude. Like it is what it is. It's like people just are not, they're just so focused on the optics, they can't see the reality anymore. Reality's gone. Like the truth doesn't matter anymore. Pat Donahue says, policing at times can be an ugly business. Just because a perp is cuffed doesn't mean he or she is contained. Sadly, too many law enforcement officers have been injured, killed by perps in cuffs throughout history. And you're 100% right here. And again, you know, obviously this episode's brought to you by The Key. I'm going to bring back in the patrol guide. If Sanders, Sal, Dom Izzo, and the rest of them would have went to The Key, they would know and understand NYPD procedure, right? What does the procedure say in this situation? I want you to focus on this photo while I'm saying it. 22101, use of force. Line 2D. Uniform members of service must not use any level of force on a handcuffed or otherwise restrained subject. So this guy's handcuffed and otherwise slightly restrained because you see that he's able to move, right? So you may not use force on him, but it doesn't stop there, right? Doesn't stop there. Unless necessary to prevent injury. Is biting you, if he makes contact, is that gonna cause the cop injury? I think so. I think if he bites the cop, that's going to be an injury, right? A bite is an injury. A bite is an assault. Attempting to bite somebody is an attempted assault. So you're allowed to use force because you're stopping an assault from happening, right? You're attempting to prevent injury, right? Unless to prevent injury, escape, or overcome active physical resistance. He's physically resisting, as you could see. He's not following commands. He's fighting back physically or assault. And that's exactly what you see here. So by the patrol guide itself, you're there. Like, that's it. And again, if you would have took The Key, you know that. This episode's brought to you by them. Classes are normally $849. If you sign up and you use the Finest Unfiltered code, Finest Unfiltered 699 at checkout, you're going to get the sergeant's course for $150 off of that. You'll get $150 off using Finest Unfiltered 699 at checkout. Links to The Key's website in order to sign up for the sergeant's exam is wherever you're watching or listening to this episode. But it's important, dude. It's really important, especially if you're going to be a sergeant, that you understand. First of all, this is guaranteed there is going to be a use of force question on your exam. That is without a doubt. So you should know 22101 and 22102 cold. You should know both of those cold. And what I would do, like when I studied, like how I remember these things is I would literally write 20101 line 2D. uniform member of service must not, and I would actually not do D. I would do A, B, C, D. And I would say uniform member of the service on line 2 and 20102. I would write on the card must not, and then I would put the A, B, C, D. And then on the back of it, I would put those answers. And now I would bring that to work with me. I read it. I would bring that to work with me, and I'd flip them back over. So I have those answers, and I'd ask, hey, Eric, when can I, as per 22102, 22101 line 2, A, B, C, and D, what may we not do? And that's how I was able to bring everything together. So then when I would go through the key packet, I would just hammer those out. Boom, 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 boom. Watch the class, do the key packet, and then I would have all that stuff ready to keep going back and forth. Because as you go on in the weeks, you're going to need to go back to keep your memory fresh on all of the other topics that you're going to need. So that was just that. So make sure you do. Find us Unfiltered, 699. If you know anyone that starts studying for sergeant, tell them to get the $150 off now. It's very limited time.
Listen, 150 is a huge discount, but even if it was $849, it's still worth the investment. You can't look at this as cost. It's an investment. You get promoted, and even if you don't do well, or even if you're in a position, let's say you have a side business, you have a business on the side, and you just don't have the time to get promoted, it only helps you to understand these procedures even more. If you're ever in a pickle with the Civilian Complaint Review Board or potentially facing civil liability, you want to understand the policy for yourself to protect yourself. So I don't think it's never a bad thing. It's never a bad, and you should always be in the game. If there's a test, whether you want to get promoted or not, take that test. Put yourself in that position, the driver's seat, that you have options. You don't want to just put all your eggs in one basket. I had a great conversation with one of my cops who's a sergeant yesterday. And he's in a spot that he loves. He's making overtime. And there's a rumor that there's going to be a lieutenant's test in the fall. And he wasn't sure if he should take it or not because he'll make less money because of the overtime. He said, stop. I don't care what you're doing. Take that test. First of all, you can't predict the future. All the time, these things they swing like a pendulum. Sometimes it's there, sometimes it's not. Take the test, put yourself in that position, and when it comes time to get promoted, you can make the decision then. But always give yourself that opportunity, and the key will give you that opportunity. Why? I will tell you this. They teach you how to learn. And some people say, what do you mean by that? Well, there is one thing to read something, but to be able to absorb it. And John, I would say maybe that's something you learned from the key, or maybe something before, of writing something down and putting A, B, C, D, whatever works for you so that you remember. Everyone's different. For me, what worked for me, that didn't work for me. What worked for me is I would read a procedure and I would try to put myself in a position at work, or something would happen at work. And I would say, okay, we have this situation. What procedure actually applies to it? And what is difficult, though, if you're actually in the street, you'll find that when you're studying, a lot of the stuff in the patrol guide doesn't really correlate to what you're doing on the street. So you have to learn the book way and the street way, because sometimes it's different. So I think it's good to delve into both, and you should dive into it, and you want to have a good understanding of it. But the key does a great job of teaching you how to learn, how to approach these things, how to sit down for exam, how to examine that exam, because just knowing the information is half the battle. Now, Jason, good morning, brother. He says, Marlon, I can't do super chats. Trying to give money won't let me. Thank you so much. We appreciate it, brother. If you work at the Kinks, let us know. But we do appreciate it. Thank you for just trying. So, yeah, like I said, take the key, take the classes. It's $150 discount. It's really worth your investment. 18 classes, do the breakdown. That's less than $40 a class. Listen, get in the game. If other people get promoted and you decide not to try it, it does bother you. Some people, Marlon, I don't know if you or John felt that in your career. Like sometimes, like, damn, I should have put more effort, or maybe I should have tried that also. When you see others around you doing different things, so that, to me, that's a healthy competitiveness. That's what always kept me in the game, is seeing other people trying hard, and that would motivate me too.
No, yeah, 100%, dude, 100%. Sorry, Marlon, what were you saying, bro?
No, I was gonna say that in the 7-7, so I was never a supervisor, but I can tell you, like, the 7-7, at a certain point we had like active guys all over the place, and me and my partner were, before we got into special teams, the conditions guys were really active, and they were really like getting stuff done. We eventually joined them, but me and my partner were always motivated. We were like, I told you, we didn't have anybody to teach us, so we saw them moving, and we said, bro, we we were getting a lot of DWs, and we were like, we got to step this up, bro. This ain't working. We got to move on to stuff, better stuff. And we did. And so, just to Eric's point, how other people help to also motivate you, and you see them doing well, and you got to take steps and keep things moving as well in your end.
Yeah, I suppose it's not a thing of jealousy, because I was always happy for other people when they got promoted, did well. Well, for me, it was just motivating. John, I think we talked about this. Like, you go to the gym and you see someone else lift a lot of weight. Like, you know what? I want to do it too, right? It's a healthy competitiveness, and so get in the game and take the test. Don't, even if you're a special assignment, always take the test. Always just give yourself that option, and can't hurt to just know the material and know your job. Why not?
Yeah, you're a cop or a detective. You should absolutely be studying for sergeant. And you're a sergeant. That lieutenant's test is coming late 2027. You should 100% be taking that test. And come on, man, they dumb this test down so much now. Like, you put in some work, you're gonna pass, dude. Like, take the course, follow what they're telling you, you're gonna pass the course. Like, the test is so dumbed down. I'm still waiting for the foil to come back for how they curved that test, because they curved the last sergeant's exam. So I'm still waiting for that information. They just keep sending it back to me and saying, oh, we need more time. We need more time. We need more time. And same thing for the IAB case. They just keep sending it back. We need more time. We need more time. We need more time. But we got some of it. So yeah, I'm looking forward to getting that. But just back on this use of force, man. I think, I think knowing's half the battle with everything. And I think you need to really understand things, not get things third person. Often you hear the term Joe Cop being thrown around all the time, right? Oh, Joe Cop doesn't know anything. Joe Cop just says what he wants to say and doesn't really know. And that's the take that Sal had. He had a Joe Cop take because he had no idea what he was talking about. The Joe Cop take is you can't strike someone when they're in handcuffs. And that is absolutely not the truth. If you're doing it to overcome injury, to overcome an assault, to overcome physical resistance or escape, you absolutely can. And that's as per 220-101, the patrol guide. And also is consistent. It's consistent with New York State Penal Code as far as self-defense rules are concerned. So it was a horrible take. I'm not emotional about it. I just thought it was a really bad take. And I think, like, you're looking to get guys jammed up for absolutely no reason. They didn't do anything wrong. I saw a couple of people said they disagree because they believe that he put himself in a really bad spot and his tactics weren't good by being so close to the head. And that might be true. But again, that doesn't mean that you can't defend yourself and you should get bit because you made a mistake. I mean, we're human, man. Like, cops are not perfect people. There is no perfect people. I hate to break the news to you. If anyone on here thinks that they're perfect and you're not in elected office, you made the wrong decision, because the only perfect people I've ever seen are politicians, right? They're the most highly flawed, highly corrupted, deviant people I've ever seen in my life, but they all think that they're perfect. We're not perfect. Nobody's perfect. Cops aren't perfect. I don't care how much you train. You're going to be, these situations are so dynamic. You're going to make mistakes. You're not every situation is going to be read correctly, but you should try, and you should have that level of paranoia that you're there and you do this correctly. But hey, look, with the amount of turnover that there is in policing, it's going to be hard, dude. You're constantly working with different people. You're working with new guys. And the dynamics on New York City streets are just insane, man. Like you like the amount of things they're worried about right here, just besides this individual and getting bit, they're probably like observed a few hundred things that are in the back of their brain right now. All the people walking down the block that day, the traffic pattern, how high the building is, the roof, all of this insane stuff. Is anyone from the street going to come and attack me? There's a woman in there trying to interfere with them. So much stuff going on, man. So, like, look, we're not telling you to not worry and not be concerned, but we're just telling you, like, know what you're talking about, dude. Don't just jump on the bandwagon with oh yeah, you can't do nothing once somebody's in handcuffs. That cop's a bad guy. Slow the video down. When you get a video, slow it down. Take your time. Look at the procedure. and then be like, is this justified or is this not justified use of force? And again, as a supervisor, as someone that worked in internal affairs, as somebody that was the CCRB liaison, I'm telling you, this is a justified use of force. CCRB is going to have a hard time getting you because and somebody said he didn't have to throw the extra punch. He was still cocked back throwing the punch, and as soon as he finished that punch, he reassessed again. Is he still biting me? No, and he stepped back. They're going to have a really hard time substantiating it. I'm telling you that this is clear. This is a justified use of force as I ever seen one, and it's a clean justified use of force. What happened here is you had guys grab a video and throw a narrative on there that is not accurate, and so people ran with it. That's all that happened here.
Yeah. One of the other things I've heard is that the cops should just walk away, just walk away from the perp, like yeah, really. You can see in the video that the other two cops were kind of struggling to hold him down, so he should just walk away and leave the guy, let him be their problem for that couple seconds. Again, it's unrealistic, this. So we talked about the key just now, right? And why you guys should take the test and study. Well, something to think about now. You're getting guys who are getting promoted, who are going to be, who are going to be looking at this and saying, well, the cop shouldn't have punched him. Guys who really haven't done any work on the street, haven't been arresting the people they should be, which is the bad guys. Because if you're arresting the bad guys, you're getting CCRBs, right? So this is even more reason for you guys to study and take the test, because the guy who's getting promoted and who's going to be, when you get called to that GO15, it's going to be that guy who did nothing on patrol. Okay. The guy who wasn't arresting the right people. Okay. Because if he was, he would have gotten CCRBs and he wouldn't think the way that he thinks. Okay. So you guys got to take that test again.
I have an issue with Dominic Izzo and Sal when it comes to this take, things like that. Now, personally, I like Sal, but his take on this, I just think is far from the truth and has become to a point. Same thing with Dominic Izzo, and I like Dominic, but I watch, Sal often, Dominic also. They've taken the same position where they're no longer looking at things from a fair assessment lens. The lens, to me, appears that they're so bitter with the profession that they're acting from a place of emotion. And because I watch Dominic's Izzo stuff, and often, it's fuck this and fuck that cop. And the reality is, I think they want to fight. I think their intention is to fight the system, and the system is failed leadership. When you start attacking the cops for doing their job, I mean, you're putting yourself in a position now where you're siding with these lefties that are just completely anti-cop but don't know why, and they're looking at it from this lens that just it's like fantasy. And I think that John, I know you say they lost the plot, but I think they've more than just losing the plot. I think they lost the mission. They lost the mission. The mission was to fight the system, to fight the failed leadership, to help the cops, right? Because people like Dominic and Sal, you don't want these cops to be you. Sal, you were wrongfully terminated. These cops, if they were terminated or God forbid face discipline for this, well, they would be wrongfully terminated or they'd be wrongfully disciplined. You're supposed to fight for those so that they don't become you, not fight against them because you're angry with the system. And that's the way that I look at it, is that, yeah, I get it. Sal, you were wrongfully terminated and the system was wrong to you, but it was from the leadership. It was from the political apparatus, but not the cops. You need to support those cops because those cops could be you. Those cops could be you. And that's, I think, more than just losing the plot. We're losing the mission. We're getting too emotionally invested in this and not understanding where this is coming from. Anyone who thinks that, well, the cop should have put his leg here, I get it. We can always use better tactics. And what is tactics? Tactics is just planning in your situation, planning to put your foot in a better spot. But these things are not so fluid. And using force, and John, you and I speak about this often. Using force is not black and white. It's not. I train very often, and even myself, I find myself when I was policing making mistakes. I even watch UFC fighters who are professionals who train every day. I watch them, and I watch them make simple mistakes. And it's the same thing because we understand policing. We watch cops make simple mistakes, but unfortunately, cops are never they made a mistake and come back from it. Well, if the cop did make a mistake and put his foot in the wrong spot, if I could see what you're saying. I understand that. And maybe the cop could have had his arms braced and legs back more, but that goes back to the diaphragm also. Where are you supposed to brace your arms? You want to brace your arms on the ground? You want to put your arms on the perpetrator and put weight on them. But because the diaphragm wall, that restricts you from that also. So if we really look at the legislation, it just puts these cops at a further disadvantage and it causes them to make mistakes. But even if the cop did make a mistake, he still has a right to defend himself and stop the perpetrator from biting him. And we constantly hear what the cop shouldn't do. But what should they do? What are the options? And if you just tell me just pull his leg away, that's not reality. That's a complete fantasy. I honestly put a clamp on your legs, pretend it's teeth, and see how you pull your leg away. It's not that easy, especially those pants, the cargo pants. They're thick and they're hard to just pull away. These aren't sweatpants. I just think we really lost reality. We're unfair to cops. We're not putting ourselves in that situation. And I say we, I mean the people that are in opposition to this. And to hear it from fellow cops like Corey and Dominic and Sal, it's quite disappointing. And I think you forgot where you came from. Honestly, it's not personal, but when it comes to that, you're forgetting where you came from, and you're not looking at it from the proper lens.
Dude, it's insane. And then John's fear mongering, trying to get active cops to disobey orders and guidelines. And then so what you and Sal and everybody else are doing is just speaking on emotion and what you think, which is completely from an uninformed opinion. You know, it's just a hugely uninformed opinion. And what we did here on the show today is we showed the actual guidelines and we read it in real time so that you could understand it, and you still can't grasp it. So that just motivated me even more. As soon as I'm done with my book, I'm going to seek to take the bar exam because that thing can't be too difficult. It's obviously a lot easier than the sergeant's exam, right? Because you never passed that, right, my friend? So, you know.
Hey, you know what? John, offer Nin. Hey, Nin, when you get a chance, just plug in the finest Unfiltered $6.99 and you should take the key. You get a $150 discount. Sign up, Nin. It's a great opportunity. You know, if you're so intelligent, Juju, maybe you should take it again. Maybe there's some things you missed out. You should definitely give a second shot.
No, yeah. What would Juju do? Someone asked. I'll tell you what he'd do. He'd stand in the background and run away and watch you do all the work. And then he'd be like, "Yeah, I don't really like that he did that. I didn't like that he did that. I didn't know why he did that." You know,
I think he had his wisdom teeth and his molars.
You know, it's sick, dude. Like, honestly. So, you know, a lot of other things. Anything else on this? Like before we get off, I just think there's one more thing that we should touch on today. Like, I just want to talk about Chief Aaron Edwards again because it's really annoying the crap out of me. Really annoying the crap out of me. I watched something over the weekend. I put a post out over when I was off last week, and I put it in slow motion. When I put it in slow motion, I was like, "Oh my God." I was like, I didn't put this out online, but it's just something I want to talk about. And, you know, I saw that MSG honored Aaron Edwards yesterday. And honestly, I'm going to say, I can't believe that we're honoring a chief that failed at his job, that almost got all his guys blown up and innocent people blown up. And because he hopped over a barricade, he's being lauded as a hero. And we're completely ignoring the cop who actually apprehended the perpetrator. I just can't believe it. You know, like, so someone texted me today. They said Aaron Edwards should just retire because his stock will never be this high again. You know, he should just retire right now. You know, but it doesn't even matter. I mean, because he absolutely failed at his job.
That's hilarious.
Anything else on this? Like, I personally think this was absolutely ridiculous. Dom, Sal, Eric, Jack, we'll debate any one of you guys civilly. We're going to do it not emotionally. We're going to talk facts. We were all cops. You guys are all welcome on here. I just think that was a horrible take. And I think a lot of what you guys do, you know, like look, I like Dom's content, but I don't agree with a lot of it. But I think like he sparks a lot of different conversation. But I think a lot of stuff that gets put out a lot is just to generate content. And I think that's when people really just lose the plot. You know what I mean? Like when you're trying to go viral all the time, it's just stupid, dude. I'm the guy. I'm always scared to go viral. I'm like, I don't want to put this out. This thing's gonna go viral. You're like, I think it's dumb, man. And like to do it, like to try to ruin someone's career that really didn't do anything wrong. I don't get it, man. And that's exactly what it looks like. You're calling for the guy to be arrested for what, man? For what? To try to not get bit? Like, seriously? Like, the guy didn't want to. I guarantee the guy didn't want to be in that position whatsoever. I've never wanted to be in those positions. Those are horrible positions to be in. And it clearly was not being done punitively. It was clearly being done so that the guy would free his mouth up. And again, if it was me, I would have been cracking him in his face to get his teeth away from me, because I don't want to get bit.
Well, not only do you go viral, but by taking that position, you also become very popular amongst the left, So and by being popular with the left, that gives you things become a lot easier for you. Let's just say that in the media sphere, So
I just want to close with this when it comes to this topic. I think the problem also is what I think they're kind of short-sighted right now. Sal and Dominic Izzo and anyone that has a take on this, that this use of force was excessive or unnecessary, you've now boxed yourself in, because especially in New York City, there's going to be other videos that are maybe one today, maybe one tomorrow. This is happening on a constant basis. And now you box yourself in to where any type of force is going to appear excessive or unnecessary. It's going to be very hard for Sal and Dominic, or Dominic Izzo, or Jack, or Corey, to actually say, hey, to see a video and say, oh, that use of force was appropriate, because you've already boxed yourself in that anytime handcuffs are on, the battle is over. And that's not the truth. And I think that's the problem. You have to box yourself in a position of truth and just be honest, give a fair assessment. There's plenty of times I've seen things where I would love to, like, man, I would love to find a way to support these cops. Not to talk about this video, just rhetorically speaking, but I just can't, based on what I saw. Or sometimes I watch, I'm like, I don't even like what I saw, but I have to support the cops because they did something right. And that's why we have to give a fair assessment and be honest. And that's why we all had to part ways. It's because Defiance Unfiltered wants to seek the truth. And we're not looking to, I just want to say you have to go back to this. Dominic and Sal and many others that are podcasting, you ask yourself, why are you podcasting? Why are you doing this? If you're doing this for clicks and likes, then be a social media star. Just don't talk about policing, talk about everything. But for me, when I retired, I wanted to go on a crusade to fight the Civilian Complaint Review Board, to fight the disciplinary matrix, to fight the leadership, to support the cops, to be a backbone for them, because they just don't have it. It really makes some significant change. John was in huge opposition to anyone opposing religion, right? And that's what really. And Marlon was stood up for being in a position that if you ask questions that you're no good to them. So you have to ask yourself, why are you doing this? If you're just doing it for likes, you know what? Eventually, you're going to find yourself in a lonely place, because people are going to realize you're not doing this for the right reasons, and your emotions are just taking you down a path, or you just want to be the first that puts something out, or you want to break a story and become famous. And this is not what it's about. If that's what it's about, you can be famous in many different ways. So with that being said, let's move on.
Jason made a great point, though. Had Sal taken the key with the Finance Unfiltered promotional code, Finance Unfiltered 699, he would have been well-versed in the use of force policy. Very true. Very true. Nin, I already told you who you are. You're a racist, nobody loser cop who never did the damn job, who always wanted to be a politician. You're like the Timu Eric Adams. That's who you are. You're the Timu Eric Adams, all right? So keep asking me. That's who you are.
Yeah, and then why do we need to know who you are? You know who you are. Why don't you let us? If we don't know, then let us know. Don't be such a PUSSY and tell us who you are.
Yeah, tell us you're not the Timu Eric Adams. Let's see. Juju did take the key. He did use the promotional code because he did well on his exam. So congratulations to you, Juju. And somebody said real cops don't run to BMS. Yeah, again, it's funny.
Oh God.
Show us your tax number, big guy. Show us your tax number. Let's talk about that. You don't know anything about my life or my career, so nothing. If we're gonna compare, let's compare. Let's compare apples to apples. Let's do it.
John, that's why I always said I love these guys, and I used to say, I think I talked about this on a prior episode, but you go around on the job and you see guys with their gun belt, and they would have another precinct, like guys working the 1-2-3. They would have collar brass in their cuff case for the 7.5, and I'm like, what is that, street credit? Like what is that? I don't care. You worked in the 7.5. You were an employee in the 7.5, but what did you do there? If you were on the TS for 5 years at the 7.5, did you really work in the 7.5? I used to tell guys all the time, oh, the guy's like, oh, I'm a Bronx cop. I'm like, you drive around the Bronx. You don't exactly work in the Bronx, because I haven't seen you do anything. What do you do there? Just because your collar brass says, 4.7, what are you doing there? So that's a big difference. So anybody has and if they say, it's funny, they make fun of BMS or IAB, well, then you shit on the cops that are there right now who are in BMS. The cops that are there right now in IAB. Listen, think about who you are.
I just think I don't even take offense to it. I just think it's funny because, again, I'll take my first 14 years versus their first 14 years, and versus their 20-something years, actually, and they couldn't shine my shoes. So that's just that's.
What do you think about that, though? I thought that was, I wasn't into that.
Do you know how many people that I would go to details with 1-2-3 collar brass or IAB collar brass, because even when I was in IAB, I would wear the collar brass. I didn't put that PCO shit on. I'm like, I'm here. It is what it is. You know what I mean? Yeah. I'm not hiding from it. It is what it is. Nothing I could do. But 1-2-3, I would show up with collar brass, and people would be like, and it would be like this little fat kid, and I'm like, bro, who are you giving an attitude to? Seriously, who are you? I'll smack you right in your face. Who are you giving an attitude to? Oh no, what are you getting like that for, bro? I'm like, what are you getting tough for? Because you have a collar brass on. What do you do when you're there? And I remember one time my sergeant, he came from, I forget what Brooklyn North Command he came from. He's like, dude, you do more work than all these guys. You know how many of these guys, they just drive around the car. He's like, it's not where you work, it's what you do where you are. He's like, don't worry about those kids. And because I really did. I almost smacked this kid from the 7.5 out of detail one time because of it. And I was like, and it was like, I was like, who, that doesn't make you a tough guy. It doesn't, and I'm not a tough guy either, but don't judge me looking at me. Don't judge me. I'm not sitting there judging you, your life, your career. Don't judge cops based upon who they are, especially when legitimately you're a man with bitch tits and you can't run around the block and do a push-up, and then I'm supposed to believe that you're a great cop and your life's so perfect. Get the hell out of here. Cops eat their own, dude. Cops eat their own, and this is the clearest example of it. Guy does absolutely nothing wrong, but hey, let's make an example out of him and tell everybody where I would have did better and how I'm so much morally superior and I know what the times are now. And it's it's an absolute joke, dude. So I saw a million dudes, even in the 1-2-3, they wore the 7.5 collar brass, or they came from somewhere else and that's all they talked about. I'm like, dude, I got assigned here. You begged and cried a phone call to come here. We're not the same, bro. We are not the same. You know what I mean? If I would have got sent there, I would have stayed there. I tried to go back to the 1-2-0. They wouldn't like me.
Honestly, John, I worked in heavy commands, and it's just stupid because the reality is, listen, you're working in New York City, and do you think, and that's the part people say, do you think that perpetrators from the Bronx or the 7.5 precinct don't ever go down to the 1-2-3 to maybe commit a crime? You don't think that it's that the entire city is transit? You don't think that people drive around and go to different areas? You don't think that there's a potential threat when you're a cop working in any precinct? I don't care if you're working in some small town in the middle of nowhere in New Jersey or upstate New York. You're still a police officer carrying a firearm, and you can find yourself in a pickle. It's the stupidest thing. And the reality is, if you're working in a 7.5 or a 4.7 or a 1-2-3, most of the time you're going to an incident where the crime already happened. Unless you're doing self-initiated police work, most of the time you're not really in that much of a pickle. If you really think about it, even in the South Bronx, or unless you're doing self-initiated police work. That's why I say, what do you do there? That's really what should be calculated. If you just drove around the Bronx, you just drove around Brooklyn, that doesn't mean you really were in any danger more than someone else. What situation did you put yourself in? I hope you guys agree.
No, I totally I agree with you totally, dude. And just one last thing on this, one battle after another. He keeps bringing up this point. I meant to address it before. So he kept saying like, well, Daniel Pantaleo followed the procedure. And Daniel Pantaleo absolutely followed the training and his procedure, and he was still fired. But Daniel Pantaleo didn't get maimed, disfigured, or end up with a disease. You know, and so like that's the bottom line is what are you saying one battle after another? Are you saying this cop should have just let himself get bit? Because that's what you're saying. Like, oh, you're a cop, you should just let yourself get bit. That's what I'm hearing. I think the arguments are ridiculous at this point, dude. Honestly, again, I don't get it.
Yeah. Yeah. What about guys who did their rookie impact in like the 6-7 or like a tough command, and then they go to another command and they're wearing the collar brass on there? Like, come on, guy. Yeah. Well, really?
6 months.
Yeah.
You're right, brother. You know, it's just like, and to me, honestly, if you think about that, it says like really what you think about people, right? You think like the 7.5 and the 4.7 or the 4.4 are just such shitholes just driving around. Is that honestly the reality is most of the people there are pretty damn good, because if they weren't, it would be like you're living in a war zone. And I worked in the South Bronx in the projects, and still most of the people there are actually pretty damn good. They want a good life. They don't want to be poor. They want to do better, you know. And unfortunately, you know, they're held back by economics, and there are perpetrators there, but it's a small percentage. You know, it's just that is our world. As cops, we deal with that bad percentage. But the reality is, most of the people are actually pretty good. And so to think that, well, I'm in the 1, 2, 3, I'm just completely safe, or you know, you work in Central Park. I think someone put it here: cops have been killing line of duty. Any precinct that you work in, keep your guard up. And the reality is, you're a police officer. It's stupid. It's stupid to look down on someone else because they work at a different command. I just think that's silly.
Yeah. And then I'll be in New York City soon, probably next month. So I'll be there for like 2 weeks. Hit me up. You know,
No, you guys should hang out. You guys can go out to a local bar together.
I think I'm ready for the debate. You know, let's see a ball degree versus 60 college credits. Let's do it.
Maybe Nin's a Freemason. John, maybe Nin is a Freemason. You guys will go out to the masonry together. Maybe.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, I'm sure.
And they have a lot of secret handshakes.
More anything else on this before we go to the next thing?
No. We're going on to Edwards, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'll put up the Edwards video in second, but like, this is something that was just I put this video in slow motion because I just thought it was so I thought that what this kid did was really awesome, dude. I really did. I thought what Polygrin did was awesome. I thought he did such a good job. You know, we pointed it out earlier. You see the cops running. Edwards screams, so he hears them. So you see his foot's like starting to come into the picture here. And so I put this out last week because it started circulating again. And I was like, I really wanted everyone to see it in slow motion. So I put it in slow motion. And then when I put it in slow motion, I was like, I didn't want to detract from what Polygrin did. I wanted to make sure he got all the credit. And it went pretty far, this post, on all my socials. And I was happy that it did because people then acknowledged this individual, this cop. So, but I just want you to pay attention to Edwards here, right? Like, here's Polygrin. He comes in, he does an amazing tackle, right? Boom, right? Sweeps his leg out, brings him down, right? And then the perp's actively resisting here, right? He's not handcuffed. Polygrin immediately goes to strikes, right? He goes left hand, right hand, left hand, right. He wants the perp to put his hand behind. Now, mind you, he doesn't know that this guy doesn't have an IED still, right? So, like, he's rushing into certain death right now. He knows that this individual just threw an IED. Watch what Edwards does. Watch what Edwards does. Tell me that Edwards helps to get this perp, or tell me that he doesn't stop Polygrin. Watch this. He touches Polygrin here. Now, I want you to really watch what happens here. Where's Edwards? His hand's still on Polygrin. Where's Edwards' hand? Is it on the perp? Is it on the perp? No, it's not on the perp. Where is it on? Look at it. Where is it?
Like he's trying to pull Polygrin
He's
off?
trying to pull Polygrin off the terrorist. He does not know what the hell's happening here. He is more concerned with using force against the terrorist than he is with subduing the terrorist and getting him into handcuffs. And yet this is the guy, not Polygrin. He's not at MSG. He's not getting claps. He wasn't doing all these press conferences. He wasn't front page of the paper. Look at this. He doesn't even try to. He's not concerned with the perp. He's concerned with the cop. And this is what policing has become. Look at that. Look, he's holding his arm back. He's putting Polygrin at a disadvantage where they could both be killed. Because what's Polygrin trying to do? Get this guy in handcuffs and make sure there's not another bomb on him. But the chief doesn't want Polygrin using force to do so. He wants to hold him. So he's holding Polygrin and not. I couldn't believe, like, I seen it, but I still didn't want to detract from what cops do and the pressures they face. So I didn't bring it up. But I was like, oh, we got to talk about this shit. We got to talk about this. Like, look at that, dude. What are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I saw it from behind. I never stopped to analyze this particular picture, but you can see it from the other angles when he's behind Polygrin. I'm like, I saw it and I'm like, you're not really doing anything, guy. This is from this view, and slowing it down is very interesting. Which it goes back to what we said, right? They didn't know what they had, right? He didn't know that. He didn't know he had terrorism. He had a terrorist. He wasn't in the frame of mind of thinking about that until the perp was on the ground and he started reciting the Quran. And at that point, he gets up, and that's when he pulls out the radio and he goes over the radio. But until then, they weren't thinking that, and that is a massive problem, and that is especially why he shouldn't be parading around and like he did something that.
Oh, we spoke about this last week, John, when you were out, and I can tell you this. I was saying, I watched this video over and over and over because I love to train, and I can tell you right now, Polygrin or Polgarin, if I say it right, brother, you should be promoted to detective. There's no doubt about it. But that was a beautiful takedown. That was a perfect double leg and a sweep. I mean, that takedown was beautiful. You see, I was talking about this. The perp's hands go up. He drops his level. His head goes in. His leg is between his legs, and he takes him down. That was a beautiful takedown. That was textbook. Beautiful. They call that a blast double. Beautiful blast double takedown. And also kind of like puts a leg sweep at. So beautiful. I watched it over and over. But this also goes back to where I have a problem with the fact that Edwards is lying, and he's he allowed them to play him as the fool that, he's this superhero. The reality is they didn't know what they were running to. Him and Sergeant Navarro had no idea what they were running to. I wish they were just honest and say, hey, we saw trouble. We ran to trouble. That's what cops do. We didn't know what we were running into. The reality is because if you knew that the cop just apprehended a perpetrator that just tried to kill thousands of people by setting off 2 bombs, then you would be helping Officer Polgarin get him in handcuffs, not stop him and impeding him trying to. What was that policy the NYPD came out with? Able, right? When you see a cop using too much force to stop them. And that's the mindset that we have right now in the NYPD. And it starts with the leadership from the top down, because he's a chief. He's in a leadership position where we need to have soft kick gloves when it comes to perpetrators. This is a perpetrator who was a threat trying to kill thousands. And Chief Edwards had no idea what was going on. And that's where I have a problem. We've lost all reality and we've lost integrity. Why can't he just tell the truth? We've showed you every reason why he did not know it was a bomb. And we gave you the evidence over and over. And Edwards is living a lie. I don't know how you do that, how you just lie to the public. You had no idea. We give you credit. You're running to the problem. You're not running away. but you did not know it's a bomb. If you knew it was a bomb, you would have tried to evacuate everyone out of there. Your response would have been totally different. That's what I've been saying since day one. And your response would be to help Officer Polgarin, who should be detective, get him in handcuffs, not try to take Officer Polgarin off the perpetrator. Absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah, dude, he never tries to get the perp cuffed. I was like, wow, all he's doing is trying to control Polgarin from doing his job. He's actually impeding him from making the scene safe. So I don't know, man. I'm like, I don't know, dude. I was like, so then I watched that and I was like, we really, like, no one knows anything about policing at all, you know? And look, I'm not sitting here saying that we don't Monday morning quarterback. Like, yeah, we Monday morning quarterback all day long, you know? But at least we do it from an informed opinion, and we bring the policy in. We're not pushing narrative, and we're not trying to further lawsuits and settlements against the NYPD. We're doing it because we care about the profession. We care about the safety of this country and the sanctity of this country. And, you know, unfortunately, the truth sucks, man. You know, and sometimes you got to say things that are going to offend a lot of people. And, you know, I'm sure that we've said a lot of things these past 3 years. People have been real upset about. But I think we've done it as professional as we could. And I think we've gave everybody the ability to come on here and debunk anything that we say. Respectfully, we give you the floor. We let you talk. And, you know, a lot of people don't do it because they're full of shit. You know, I was on LinkedIn the other day, and I was just looking at some of the comments about the post that I put out originally saying that, like, this guy failed. Like, in my opinion, Aaron Edwards failed. If I personally believe if I was the chief on that scene, or if Eric was the chief on that scene, we would be fired. We would have lost our command. I personally, that's how I feel about it. I really do. Like, he failed to plan. He failed to properly deploy resources, and he didn't act so gracefully in that moment either. The only thing he did was he was able to jump over a barrier. Like, I was like, I'm not celebrating it. It was a huge failure. I think we're leaving New York City exposed. And anyway, one guy on there said, "Oh my God, what is this? You're telling the truth? You're not allowed to do that on LinkedIn." And, you know, and it's so funny because there's so many people on LinkedIn, and it's the phoniest place I've ever seen in my life. It's all these people like trying to do like a resume, and everyone's just a cheerleader, and no one tells the truth, dude. No one tells the truth. And I'm like, you know, I was like, and you know, it's sick because like me and Eric and Marlon now we're completely blackballed from the industry for telling the truth. And it really bothers me, dude. And not even because I want to work for anybody, because I don't. I really don't even like I don't. But like I'm just like, wow, the people with integrity you don't want. The people that are going to tell you the hard things you don't want. But the people that are going to lie to you, yeah, jump right in. And so I really do. I think that we lost the plot. I think we did. I think we lost it in society, and the public has no idea what they're looking at it. And you know, yeah, Marlon nailed it when Jessica Tisch took over and he made that patch, the propaganda team, because that's what this thing is. It's complete propaganda, dude.
Dude, you're so right about that. You know, this is a big problem, not just in New York City and the NYPD. This is a big problem for like America and Western culture in general, you know. And you're right about LinkedIn. You know, LinkedIn is such a BS. It's like with people brown nosing and fluffing up other people. That place is like just like there's a term that people that I've heard of recently called toxic positivity. Okay, where it's disingenuous and it's all like, you know, part of it is brown nosing. Okay, and that's exactly what LinkedIn is. That place is just so phony. It's just ridiculous, right? But what was I gonna say? Yeah, I don't think. Again, I'm bringing this up because I think we need to make shaming guys who did nothing when they were a cop great again, okay? Because this is your basic job as a cop, to arrest people, okay? And if you didn't do it when you were a cop, I question your judgment when you're higher, when you're further up, okay? And the guys who have a low amount of collars and did nothing as a cop, and then they go up and become supervisors. This is the behavior you see. You see, they're afraid to get in trouble. They're afraid of doing their job because it'll get them in trouble. So all they do is they'll wait for whatever it gets told of them and keep passing it on down. Okay, and so the behavior you're seeing out there is a reflection of this. Okay, you're not seeing the behavior of someone who took charge, someone who used minimal necessary force to get their job done. You're seeing the behavior of someone who says, "Oh, let me run away. Let me move back. Let me, don't somebody who's because doing my job means I might get a CCB and I don't want to get in trouble." Okay, so again, if you can't do the basic job as a cop, right? I question your leadership when you get up there. Okay, and you're seeing it right there.
Yeah, I have a huge problem with integrity, and we lost integrity, and I have a huge problem that Edwards. I don't think he realized it, but I think he's being used in the situation. I think he's being used. Sergeant Navarro being used to believe that they was just so brave that they ran towards a bomb, knowing it's a bomb. They kicked that bomb. First of all, it's just completely stupid. And the reality is, in policing, you have to have some fear, because if you don't have any fear, then you're putting other people at risk, and you're not a contributing factor to policing profession, helping society. If every cop just ran through doors and every cop just blindly ran through situations, then we'd have a lot of dead cops. Unfortunately, we'd have a lot of dead residents of New York City. So the fact that Edwards and Navarro are saying that they ran towards this bomb and still allowing this narrative to play out says a lot about who they are. I have a huge problem with that, with your integrity, because you did not know, and we showed you the evidence. Because a normal psychological response to a bomb would be to get the hell out of there. And not saying that you just go and tail off and you run by yourself, but a brave thing would be like, get everybody, evacuate them, and get everyone out of there. And when he ran towards the perpetrator, as Grant Polgarin had started to deploy strikes, that was more evidence that he had no idea what's going on. Because if you knew that was a terrorist who just tried to kill thousands of people, including yourself, let's get this guy in cuffs, and you would start to give direction like, hey, look around. Maybe there's more bombs out here. Get everybody out of here. I didn't see Edwards giving any direction. You talk about him being a hero, being a position of leadership. At that point, he could have been standing there and saying, starting pointing, move people. Let's get out of here. Let's evacuate. Let's get this person in cuffs. No, but instead, he was very singular and one-dimensional in his mission. His mission was to get Polgarin off the perpetrator, because we don't want to have to do TRIs and civilian complaints. So we want to be very nice to the perpetrator to just threw a firework or something, because we have no idea what he threw. That's the reality. Edwards, you had no idea. You jumped the barrier. Great for pictures. Great T-shirts. We love it. Outstanding. The rest of it, pure bullshit. And why are we getting so excited that you jumped the barrier? Maybe one day, John, next time we meet up, me, you, and Marlon in Florida, we could buy a barrier or something that size, and we could all jump over it, and we could all take pictures and talk about how great it is. Big deal. You jumped over a barrier. You're a New York City cop who happens to be a chief, and he's in his early 40s. That's really a big deal? You went over a barrier? I think it's a 2-foot barrier. I think you just grab your hands and just walk right over it. That's a big deal? So we just take the picture of him, the fact that he jumped over the barrier. And that's how you know it's propaganda, because they don't talk about everything else. And that's why there's so much opposition. And that's why they hate us at One Police Plaza. Why? Because we just dissected this and gave you the truth with evidence. We gave you the truth with evidence. We've showed you the psychological response. We showed you the evidence. We showed you the video. And they know the reality also, because their propaganda is falling flat in his face because of the Finest Unfiltered. You're welcome.
No, yeah. And KB, you have to give them some credit for taking some action. There were others standing by with their hands in their pockets, oblivious. So look, KB, here's the thing. Like if he was just a lieutenant or a sergeant, I would give him a lot more credit. He was in charge of planning and the resources for that event. So I'm saying he systemically failed. He endangered the lives of everyone. He failed at his core mission. I don't care what he did after. He's not someone that should be celebrated. Again, I honestly believe if it was me or Eric, we would have been removed from our position. We would be facing charges right now for what he did. And the thing that why it's being celebrated as so much is because New York City doesn't want to change its protest posture. Jessica Tisch told you that they want to go down this path of decoupling anything that they deem as counterterrorism out of First Amendment activities, which is leaving New Yorkers vulnerable to a terrorist attack. If you're gonna staff mass gatherings like the Thanksgiving Day Parade and New Year's Eve properly and place counterterrorism resources at that event, and you're not willing to do it for protests, there's something seriously wrong here, and they're leaving everyone vulnerable. People are going to die as a result of that, and people are cheering this propaganda on. When we showed you what happened, dude, he fails from the onset. He doesn't plan. The thing goes haywire. He doesn't even react in the situation. He should have earlier on. He should have called SRG in. He should have had them there from the onset, knowing there was going to be violence. He doesn't do that. Then it gets crazy. All of them are pushing back on him, saying, "Oh, hold the line, hold the line." I would have collared Jake Lang and his 7 crew. The protest would have been over. Terrorists would have never even got over that. It would have been done. The minute he starts pushing at my cops and telling me we're not doing this and we're holding the line, yeah, all right, yeah, you could hold the line from the One Police Plaza because you'll be in line waiting to get fingerprinted because so that never happens. And then even at that, when it's insane, he still doesn't call SRG in. And then someone's able to get off 2 IEDs, not 1, but 2, before he notices or before anyone notices. And then when he does, he still doesn't even know it's an IED. He hops the barrier and he goes after the cop that understands what's happening. The cop who's like, this dude just tried to just tried to kill us. He contains the cop, not the perpetrator. And Marlon's analysis, in my opinion, is 100% correct. He hears the guy screaming Allahu Akbar, and then he realizes, oh my God, it's a bomb. And that's when they switch. And so we're not sitting here beating and not trying to take credit. Everyone on that scene that reacted, I'll give credit to, but I'm saying at his job as a chief, what he was supposed to do, he failed miserably. I'm not going to sit there and celebrate it. And he knows all this. And this is the propaganda that's coming out about it. And it's disgusting, dude. And you don't see the kid Polgren anywhere. Look at this. Look at this. Oh, wait, I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's just a picture. That's just a picture. Go to the video. I'll put you.
I don't know why it's doing
But
that.
that's my point. These guys.
Wait, let me remove it.
These guys are being used, and they're allowing themselves, and they're playing the game. Edwards is continuing to play the game as the hero, and he knows damn well he didn't know it's a bomb. And it's okay to not know it's a bomb. Sometimes you're in volatile situations as a cop. You just don't know what's going on, but you run towards the danger because that's what we do. Why could he just say that?
Is it up now?
No. That's still the picture. Wait. Let me get rid of that. Try. Go further down, John. It's next to the thumbnail.
Oh, this. Okay.
There he goes.
All right. So look at this.
Yeah.
We appreciate you so much. And one quote that stood out to appreciate the most was you said, once a cop, always a cop. An incredible action photo as well of Aaron springing to action. Mike 5.
Please join us in honoring a 23-year veteran of the New York City Police Department, Assistant Chief Aaron Edwards. On March 7th, when explosive devices were thrown into a crowded protest outside Gracie Mansion, Chief Edwards jumped over a police barricade, ran toward the threat without hesitation, exemplifying the kind of courage that defines New York's finest. Chief Edwards, we thank you for your service and your unwavering commitment to keeping this city safe.
To me, it's stolen valor, dude. I'm sorry. It's stolen. It's completely stolen valor. I'm sorry. Like the picture that should have went was Polgaren or Polgren. Sorry if I keep mangling your name, and I think I even spelled it wrong in the post. Apologies, but like that was the picture that should have been on the front cover of the paper. Because that was the person who understood what actually happened and ran into danger knowing it, and it's insane, like Eric said, because you're literally running towards certain death, but he did it anyway.
That's why. If anybody knows Bulgarian, by the way, if you could tell us the proper pronunciation of his name, I don't want to butcher it. I think he should be a detective. There should have been on that screen, should have been the picture when the perp's arms goes up and he drops levels and his leg is between the leg and he's about to sweep him. That should be the picture. Bulgarian did an amazing job. I mean, he didn't know if he was strapped with a suicide vest at that point. He didn't know how many bombs. He could have bombs up to the gills at that point. But at that point, they knew it was a bomb, and Grant Bulgarian took the perpetrator down. And that's why Edwards is allowing them to use him, and he's playing this game. That's why I say integrity is a big deal. I'm not saying, listen, I think there were a couple people here in the chat, friends that let's say give him some credit. We're not saying that he didn't try. He didn't jump over the barrier and run towards danger, but we are critical because he's the leadership in charge. He was supposed to have everything in place to prevent these things from happening, and that's where he failed.
Yeah, 44 Riggins. I agree. There was some guys did that stuff, and shout out to our rumblers over there in the chat over there. But we see you guys as well, and we appreciate your comment. But it's 100% stolen valor. The incident didn't happen like the narrative being pushed by them. Okay, that there's a certain point where the chief was being used by there was a monster role. I mean, there's just a force pushing him. Okay, and that included a PC who brought him up on stage at that graduation. Okay, but at a certain point now, you yourself know the story didn't go down like that, and yet you're being part of this. Okay, I'm not going up there to MSG. Thank you, but I'm sorry it didn't happen like it did, like this narrative is saying. Okay, and I didn't play that big a role in this. Okay, so I'm not going to go up there and stand as though I'm a hero. Okay, to me that you're absolutely right, John. It's stolen valor, and I just think it's so disingenuous of him to be involved in that. It's dude. This entire thing is embarrassing.
Dude, he tried to stop the cop.
Yeah,
he tried to stop the cop that was trying to save everybody's life. He didn't try to arrest the perp. Like, what the hell are we watching, dude? You're holding the guy's arm. Like, you see it clear as day.
Yeah.
And someone said, am I implying that he's being hailed as a hero because he's black? It's possible. I don't know. I don't know why he's being hailed as a hero. I personally think, in my opinion, when I look at the entire situation, that that picture came out and they ran with it and they needed it to show, look how great of a job we did. Meanwhile, they failed. And we're the only people saying it. Like, it's scary to me, dude. It's really scary. I don't give a shit if he's black, if he's gay, if he's white, if he's whatever, if he's Italian. Doesn't matter to me. The situation that went down is not what's being described. It was a huge failure, and you have all of these morons celebrating. I'm sorry. I had people reach out to me on LinkedIn. You're a piece of garbage. I want to debate you on this. I was like, okay, let's do it. And then they all back out. Because, like, all right, let's do it. And then they all back out because the bottom line is it's kind of hard to go against the truth, dude. It's kind of real hard to go against the truth. The bottom line is this. Overall, New York and the NYPD should have immediately changed its protest posture, and instead they're doubling down on it. They're doubling down on it. Edwards is not the hero that they're making him out to be. I'm sorry. He failed as a chief. He failed at his core mission. And then even after he jumped over the barrier, he tried to stop the dude who was trying to stop a terrorist, not stop the terrorist. Look what he's doing. He never puts his hand. He never puts his hand on. Let me bring it up on the big screen. He never puts his hand on the perp. Watch what he does. He goes right for Grant. He doesn't go for anybody else. Here it comes. Look, Grant does. This should have been the picture first off, right here. You see that? That should have been the picture on the front cover of the paper. Now watch. I got it coming slow. Watch what he does. Does he go for the perpetrator? Does he go to grab the perpetrator's arm? No. Puts his hands on Grant, grabs Grant's right arm with his hand on his back. He's pulling Grant off of the terrorist. That's what he's doing. Look, you see it right there. Look, you see it? See it? Does he switch? Does he change? Does he get on the floor? No. He's holding Grant's arm. That's what he's doing. That's all he's doing.
Listen, we talk about cops missing the plot. Some of our trolls here and friends and listeners, unfortunately, I think some people missing the plot and the mission here. So, Nick, I think you're totally missing, and you're trying to distort the narrative that we're putting out here. So he says Chief Edwards runs rings around all the hosts. John is a jealous BMS tough guy. No, I think you're missing the point here. We're not, again, listen to what we said. We gave him credit for running towards danger, but he's allowing them to propagate this machine. And the narrative is that he was the hero in this. And the reality is he didn't know what was happening. And the reason why they want him to be the hero is not because he's black. It's because the protest settlement is a disaster. And the NYPD is playing these lefty rules. And that's the reality. We're telling you about the protest settlement and that it's an epic fail. And instead of saying, well, just like John Shell said, I'll give him a little credit, we would have had SRG in place. Instead, they didn't have SRG there. They didn't have the necessary specialized units to prevent something happening like this when you already had the intel that Jank Leg was coming, when you already know violence is coming to you. You didn't have intel doing the social media searches, getting you the right information. And if you did, means you just completely ignored it. So that's what we're talking about here. That's why they made him the hero. They made him the hero because this whole thing was a disaster. This is not about us being jealous that he could run over or jump over a 2-foot barrier. We could do that also. And if he could run circles around us, God bless him. He should. He's still on the job. We're retired right now. And so I think you're missing the point. The point is not about him running over the barrier. The point is they've missed a lot of tactics that should have been taking place, preventive measures, so this doesn't happen, so that Grant Polgaren is not the hero for the day. Because this is the reality. That should be the picture. He was the hero. He knew. He grabbed the perpetrator who could have still been strapped with bombs. Instead, Edwards is allowing them to blow smoke up your ass and gaslight you by playing the game, saying, yeah, we knew I'm the big hero. You didn't know because behind closed doors, you guys failed. You failed because you played the game of the protest settlement. That's what we're talking about here.
Yeah, and Eddie West says it here too. It's like I said, because he's black, the pitcher is a great recruitment to school. Jamani Williams says at the budget hearing also. He does. I actually have that clip. I didn't put it out last time. There's no stock in the poster of a white cop saving lives from a terrorist and using force, you know. And so, Nick, you could go F yourself because, yeah, and Marlon alluded to it too. Yeah, I absolutely ran circles around Aaron Edwards just because he moved up the chain. Again, if I was the chief on that scene, that never happens. So there's no reward. I don't go out because no one even knows what happened, right? All you know is that case gets dropped later on, or he gets probate, or he gets something else later on, because that shit never happens. It's that simple. So he failed at his mission. So Nick, again, share your tax number. We could judge, or we could run it, but keep hiding behind your fake name, tough guy.
Well, that's what I'm saying. These guys talk about missing the plot. You're missing the mission. You're totally missing the point. And people like Nick, you just don't get it, brother. Jealous. We want the cops to do good. Apparently, you're not paying attention. You watch a show, but you're just looking to find little sound bites to try to find things to peck at us, but you're only going at something personal. The reality is, brother, we're actually dead on. You know that we're spot on. But thanks for watching the show, so we do appreciate it. Thank you so much. When we have an opportunity to sell some shirts, Nick, I'll get you a shirt. All right, brother? Thank you.
Yeah, and Waylon says, well, it's good public recognition to get more men into policing. What it is it's propaganda that's going to get a lot of people killed, is what it is. So, I mean, so to me, it's not good. And Driver Seat says, I get the feeling John arrested a lot of kids for jumping the turnstile. Well, considering I was never in transit, I didn't. Sorry. What I do have is a lot of pickup arrests for criminal patterns that most detectives don't even have today. So just so we're aware of that. So if you're butthurt about hearing the truth, there's always a good way to stop hearing the truth. Turn the volume off.
Nick says, keep up the beer fuss. Listen, Nick, just tell us who you are, because you know who you are. You're a scared cow little boy. Because the reality is, just tell us who you are. So you know damn well, if he could jump over a 2-foot barrier, if he could jump over a 10-foot wall, I want him to. I want the cops to be in shape. I often talk about training, presence. I want the cops to do well. And John Marlon, here's the reality. He should be in better shape than we are. The reality, I don't think he is, but he should be. He's on the job. That is a requirement that we should expect. We should expect our cops, from police officer to chief, to be able to do the job. And that being in shape is part of doing the job. So I don't even understand what you're saying. I don't even understand the argument here. Doesn't make any sense.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah, what are you getting at, driver's seat? Please elaborate, because I've talked about this. We talked about this all last week. Okay, the point is that Edwards is absolutely there because he's black. It's 100%. He is there because he's black. Okay, and because he's convenient to a lot of people. Okay, he's convenient to Tish because Tish doesn't want you thinking any deeper into the incident and asking questions. He's convenient to people like the Guardians. Okay, he's convenient to the media and to the elitists because, again, rich white elitists love a token. Okay, and the media loves tokens in the law enforcement. Okay, right. The average price now of a Knicks game is around $200. Okay. Now, not everybody there is an elitist, but a lot of people there are wealthy people, because I'm telling you, blue collar people can no longer afford to just go to a Knicks game like that, especially if it's not like a playoff game. Okay. It's not happening with $200 a ticket to bring your family there. Okay. A lot of those people, rich elitists, love feeling good about themselves. They love feeling virtuous. Okay. You know what would make them feel virtuous? Clapping a hero black cop. Okay. And a token. Okay. That's what he is right now. Okay. So
That's why I say he's being used. And here's the reality. It's important that he's being used because he's black. Why? Because here's other than the Finest Unfiltered, no one wants to talk about it because it's a black chief. So the reality is, the mistakes that they made because of the protest settlement and because of the position the NYPD leadership has taken under the helm of Jessica Tisch of not policing these protests properly, which in reality, this was a bomb scare that actually became an actual bomb incident. Just got lucky that, well, if we put our focus on a black chief, then we can't talk about it. We can't talk about it because it's a black chief. So that's what they want. They don't want you to talk about it anymore because he's black. No one can talk about it. The only ones that talk about it are the racist, the Finest Unfiltered, right? Because we're not afraid to talk about it. So that's the reality. That's why it's important that he's black. That's why they want to put emphasis on a black chief, because if he's a black chief, we can't talk about it because it becomes racist. And then we can't dive into what's underneath the surface and talk about the reality, the mistakes that they made and the failures.
And the fact that he flew through every rank and never really had the proper experience at those ranks, which is why he reacted the way he did at that protest. And that protest was highly mismanaged and was a huge incompetent response from the NYPD. So it's, that's the rocket fuel passed through. Someone says these cops are definitely racist, and that, we definitely locked up more black people than white people. So I definitely, if you look at, if we're going to go by disproportionately locking people up, and you're going to judge someone's whether you're going to say whether they're racist or not, I could speak personally for myself. I predominantly stopped and arrested Italian males over anybody. Like a overwhelming amount of the people that I locked up in my career was and stopped and issued summons to and wrote UF 250s for and frisked were Italian males, because that's where I worked. So you could say I hate my own kind if you're going to make that statement, because it really depends on where you work, right? So Eric was in the 120, signed in predominantly black neighborhoods that time. I think if you look at a lot of his arrests, you're going to see a lot more black people, right? Because that's where he was assigned. Marlon was in the 7-7. If you look at his collars, you're going to see a mix of a lot, but you're going to see probably predominantly more black individuals than any other nationality, but you will see a mix in the 7-7. Myself in Staten Island in the 123, if you look at the earlier part of my career, it's predominantly black and brown individuals. And then when I go to the 123, it's all Italian males, the whole thing. So yeah, if you want to say I'm a racist, then it's I hate Italian people, because that's what it is.
Listen, a lot of people here talking about stolen valor. I say it's used valor. The reason why I say that is because they found this to be purposeful, right? I'm not saying that Edwards intentionally went out and said, hey, I'm going to go out and say I'm the hero. What happened here was I think they made Edwards the hero as part of the propaganda machine, and Edwards allowed himself to get sucked into this and to play the game. I think what happened, from what I see, I believe the face, the eyes tell a lot. And I look at Edwards and I look at his eyes, I look at his face. He looks like he's a nice guy. And here we are, the whole nice guy syndrome. I don't know if he's a good guy, but he looks like a nice guy. And I tell you what, I'll even say he probably is a good guy. Just look at him. But I believe he allowed himself to be used and got sucked in, and then eventually he went down the rabbit hole of playing the game, and now he just went too far. And he may very well, it might bother him at home. Maybe he feels like he lost his integrity with this, but he can't say it because he went down that rabbit hole, and it's just too far gone at this point. Because his reactions here are good reactions, right? I mean, they're intentional. He wanted to run towards the danger. He went to go towards the perpetrator, but the reality is he didn't know what was happening. He didn't know he was running towards a bomb. He didn't know that Grandpa Garin was grabbing a perpetrator that just tried to kill thousands. He thought he was doing his job as a chief. Oh, we could get this perpetrator under control. No need for the strikes. We don't know what he threw. That's the reality. And if Edwards agreed to that, I would have no problem with it. I would say he did his job. There are failures, but he tried to make up for it. But I believe he went down this rabbit hole that now it's too late. And that's why I say it's used valor. And he's being used. It's become purposeful.
I think it's pure stolen valor. I think, honestly, I think he did a horrible job. I don't even give him credit at all for any of this. Like, he literally, the kid throws a strike, and then he's trying to grab the guy's hands, and you have the chief holding him back. Like, I don't give him credit. He did a horrible, he doesn't know what he's doing. He's inexperienced. I'm sorry. And it relates back to what he did as a cop, and it relates back to him flying through the ranks and what he did in the ranks of being a sergeant, being a lieutenant, being a captain, being a deputy inspector, being an inspector, being a chief. He was not involved in this stuff. I'm sorry. You could clearly tell. I think he did a horrible job. It's stolen valor, and that's just what I'm going with. I don't even think he ran towards danger. I think he went to save the terrorist from the big bad white cop. That's you know what honestly, that's what it looked like to me. I mean, tell me it's different. Like, tell me it's different.
But this is the reality. That's why it's important for people to understand that he is from this era now where this is the way the cops are trained. Now, he got on the job around the same time that we did, but he's moved up the ranks. He played the game. He moved up by rocket fuel. And the reality is, this is how the cops are trained, right? Your leadership's important. The cops are trained right now to be soft, not to use too much force on the perpetrators. And in his mind, it appears to me, I'm not in his mind, but from what I see, it appears he thinks he's doing the right job by taking his hands off. But what I'm saying is, I don't think his intentions in the beginning were to steal that valor. He did steal the valor, but I think it's used valor. I think he found himself being used and went down that rabbit hole. I don't know what he feels, but I'm just going by my observations, and that's what I think. Do I think this is an epic fail? But what he's doing right now by grabbing Grandpa Garin is not an isolated incident. I guarantee you the majority of the job would do the same thing. That's what they learned. That's what they're taught right now, is make sure the cops aren't using too much force. They're more concerned about the perpetrator's well-being than the cops' well-being and the residents of New York City. That's my point to it.
Dude, he's not even helping him get him cuffed. He's preventing him from cuffing the guy. So the guy's worried about a terrorist, and then he's got to fight with the chief trying to pull his arm back. And like, look at it. He throws the punch in. He's holding him, and he's still trying to get. I wish I could hear what was being said here. Because people are just butthurt about the truth. Sorry, your hero isn't who he is. Look, he's trying to get the guy's arm, and he has to fight with the chief to get his arm. So I'm sorry, whatever. If you're butthurt about it, that's fine. I don't care. Let Edwards be a hero. You go police these protests with Edwards. You go be wide exposed to the terrorists, and hopefully you don't try to stop a terrorist, and maybe Edwards will jump over the barrier and stop you too. So sorry. He risked everybody's life. He's a failure. Jessica Tisch is a failure as a police commissioner. What's his face is a failure as a chief of department, LePetri, and so on and so forth. They did absolutely nothing. People are like, oh yeah, I'm just jealous. Okay, say I'm jealous, but I'm not the one that's going to get blown up.
Yeah. Jealous of what? Remember when we were in the precinct with our collars for days, guys like this were running home. Okay, running home, and guys like this were getting called into the CO's office every couple of months because they haven't been bringing in the collars. Okay, so what? Jealous of what exactly?
Well, no, you're absolutely right. Jealous of what? The reality is, and as I said, stolen valor, used valor, however you look at it. Bottom line is integrity has been lost in this profession, but that's what they're taught. Edwards' response of grabbing Grandpa Garin and getting him off the perpetrator, is not an isolated incident. That's what I'm saying. The cops, the majority of the cops, I guarantee you, especially the ones with under 5 years on the job, that is their response. And we see numerous videos where cops are intervening and they're impeding other cops from getting hands-on with perpetrators. And I talk to cops all the time. I hear that they're getting more adverse effects and more reactions from the cops they work with than actual the perpetrators. Sometimes their own cops they work with, because they call it able training. And I forgot what able means, but that's when you're supposed to intervene and stop the cops. And the cops immediately, when a cop is getting into a physical confrontation with a perpetrator, they're already taking the cops off of the perpetrators, making it far worse, because that's a train. That's the mindset they have. And that's why I say Edwards is playing the game. That's why he moved up by rocket fuel, because he's willing to play the game. He's part of DI. He checks a lot of the boxes. So I don't know also who he knows. So the bottom line is, this is what the cops are learning. That's their leadership. Edwards was promoted by rocket fuel. There's no doubt about it. But what I say is, he looks like he has a nice face. He doesn't look like he's a devious person, but this is the environment he came up in. In order to get promoted, you have to play this game. He's playing that game. And I would put my money on it that when he's at home right now, he knows damn well he's living a lie. And it's just too far down that rabbit hole to come back from it.
Yeah. And Dog says able training is a joke. Able training was the biggest joke I ever went to in my whole life. Able training in the NYPD was trying to teach moral integrity. They were teaching moral integrity at the same time they were forcing people to put something in their body that they didn't want or they didn't need, and nobody would stand up. And so I'm like, how could you even be saying this at this time? You're literally going to fire people for not putting something in their body that goes against all of medical history, that goes against these people's religious beliefs, and that goes against their own medical advice. How could you sit there? I'm like, I'm like, the majority of you, I said it in the training, the majority of you would walk your mothers into the gas chamber for your pension. And you're going to sit here and try to teach us moral integrity? This is an absolute joke of a training. And the way they tried to do it was they were showing people putting their knees on people's back. And they showed one in Seattle where the knee was like the partner lifted the knee off of the other the cop's partner grabbed his knee and picked it off of and like moved his knee away from it being on the guy's back. And they're like, do you think that was right? And this is right after the Floyd thing. This is as everyone's demonizing knees on the back, chokeholds, all this stuff. And I'm like, wait, hold on, time out. I was like, if you watch the video that you guys is showing, because it was in the middle of a riot, everybody has the knee on somebody's back. It's a trained technique, right? I forget what it's called, like the MRR technique or whatever. I'm like, it's a trained technique there. Like, what are you talking about? Like, you're showing a video where everyone's using this technique and you're just pointing to one part of the video and saying, oh, look, this is how you do the right thing morally as a cop. I'm like, what? I'm like, could we have some, like, could you give some context to the video before you train this bullshit? Like, they're not doing the wrong thing. I don't know that he's doing the right thing or the wrong thing, because they're obviously, then everyone in the video is doing the wrong thing. Then the police are just systemically bad and they hate black people and they're racist and you agree with defending them. Like, what are we talking about here? You know, and this is the problem, is like, you're trying to teach moral integrity to a profession that is literally forcing integrity out of it. It's forcing integrity out of it. What they need is compliance. You need to go with the official narrative. That is it. The official narrative that you're told, doesn't matter if it's legal, doesn't matter if it makes sense, doesn't matter anything about it. You're going to do what we tell you, and you're going to shut your mouth. We told you crime's down, crime's down. End of story. So, and that's the whole thing. And by the way, Nick, I'm sure you were one of the tough guys that was saying, ain't nobody telling me to take a shot, Mo. And now you're double boosted walking around, right? Like, and you know, I'm sure you were one of those guys, Nick. So let's get that real. I'm sure you're moral integrity, and you're also definitely one of those guys walk their own mother into the gas chamber for your pension, because you're a coward and you have no skills and you have no talent and you're gonna do whatever you're told.
Yeah. Yeah, 44 rigs, you're absolutely right on that. And that's the whole point. The narrative being told is not honest, okay? And it was a failure. And it was a failure that the job happened to just get lucky. And the story could have gone the other way. and it could have been a tragedy, you know. And that's the exact point that we're trying to make, that you need to tell the truth, because we don't repeat that we get past prior mistakes by admitting what we did wrong and doing our best to not repeat it again, and not by continuously pushing a false narrative, you know.
Well, we know it's a damn lie, right? I mean, you think about it, right? Your kids, right? You know, kids always want to have occupations, come to school and give a speech, right? So if you were a parent, you know, I'm a parent. I've been to my kids' school before and talk about police work. Would you tell those kids that if there's a bomb, go kick it and run towards it? You would say, listen, if there's a bomb, you need to help, you know, mommy and daddy get everybody out of there and evacuate. That's a psychological response. And I really have a problem. My biggest issue with this whole thing is integrity. And I think that's, I mean, your word, what do we have in this life, right? You have your word. And without your word, once you lose your integrity, once people can't trust you and they don't find you honest anymore, it's really hard to come back from that. That's where I have a big problem with this. And that's where I have a problem is, and I look at Edwards, and I honestly, I look at his eyes. He seems like down there's probably a nice guy there, but he allowed himself because he you know, I don't know, maybe self-preservation was more important to get, you know, you got promoted by rocket fuel, that to play this game. Tell the truth. You did not know that was a bomb. I agree. You jumped the barrier, you ran towards danger. That's what cops are supposed to do. But you didn't know it's a bomb. And we need to rethink how we, this profession of how we police. This able training, CCRB, the lack of support from leadership has created the response that we had from Edwards. The response that Edwards had was a normal response for most of the cops. That's the way they act. When they see a cop using force, they don't look to help and get that perpetrator in custody and control. Instead, they try to pull the cop off. And every time you do that, you're making it more of a volatile situation. You're giving people ammunition to attack the cops. And you're also allowing the perpetrator a chance to hurt Grant Polgarin. What if that perpetrator had a gun in his pocket that we didn't know about, and Edwards is pulling him off, and he manages to get the gun and shoots Polgarin? This is a different story. This is absolutely stupid. We have to stop with this operating system that the NYPD has, and it starts from the top. This able training is a disaster. I think it inhibits the cops. It creates so many limitations, and it puts the cops in a position where the Civilian Complaint Review Board has more ammunition to come after the cops because, oh, look, this cop is intervening. You were excessive. You were using unnecessary force. Oh, this cop had to try to take you off. It's absolutely ridiculous. The cops have allowed themselves to become vacuumed into this machine, and they're anti-police themselves. That is the picture that should be at Madison Square Garden. When you go back to it, John, right where he ducks his head, he puts his head into the perpetrator's chest, puts his legs between him. It was a beautiful takedown. And immediately, Grant Polgarin, he was right on the mission, immediately started to deploy strikes. He didn't know if he had a gun. He didn't know if there were more bombs. That is your hero. You are looking at your hero right there. Behind him is the man that tried to pull the hero off. That's what we have here.
Yeah. So I don't care if he's a nice guy, in my opinion. It doesn't matter to me. I'll say it one last time, and then I'm not going to talk about this again. But, you know, Chief Edwards is an experienced DEI chief who failed miserably that day at nearly everything that happened that entire day. So whoever doesn't like it, too bad. I really don't care. Again, you could come up and debate us. It is what it is. It doesn't matter. Nice guy, but horrible, inexperienced chief. I wouldn't follow him across the street. Never mind want to work under him at the New York City Police Department. So, I mean, that's just the bottom line there. And then the other thing is, you know, on the main topic, you know, we showed you what happened. You know, it is what it is. Like, like guy was trying to bite the cop. Cop deployed 4 or 5 strikes. Soon as the guy let go, cop stopped hitting him. There's absolutely nothing wrong here. Anyone saying that, they don't know the NYPD Patrol guide. They don't know police work. and they're pushing a narrative and they're looking to get cops hurt for absolutely no reason. So if you support failing and continuing down the rabbit hole of let's just keep protests open for First Amendment and let's not police protests properly and not staff counterterrorism resources or SRG there and allowing these situations to get out of control, then you're asking for cops to get killed. And if you were against this, you're also asking for cops to get killed. I mean, that's simple. I really don't think this is rocket science.
It's not. It's promotion by rocket fuel.
Yeah, it's funny enough that we're talking about these two topics because the same people who want to crucify the cop for doing that, are the same people who are silent on the stolen valor that's happening now with Edwards. Okay, and I forgot my train of thought on this. Oh yeah, I know what Mikey G, right? Mikey G said the real question is how do we change the narrative and bring back common sense? That's a very good question, Mikey G. I don't know, brother, because I think we're in a post-truth era, and it seems to me that truth doesn't matter anymore. We still haven't had that come to Jesus moment on the scamdemic. Look at what's going on in the Middle East. Do you actually know what's going on in the Middle East? I don't think anybody knows, because again, we're not being told truth anymore. There's no truth in the world anymore. Everything is propaganda, spin, narrative, and unfortunately, that's the world we live in. And I don't know how we answer your question and how do we put the genie back in the bottle at this point.
Listen. First of all, the reason why I keep mentioning he seems like a nice guy is because we have this whole nice guy syndrome in the NYPD. He does. He looks like he's a nice guy, but that doesn't mean he's a good guy. Because the fact is, he allowed himself to be used, or he planned to be used. I think he allowed himself to be used, go down this rabbit hole, which means he's not a good guy because he's playing this game. He might be a nice guy, but that doesn't make him a good guy, and it sure as hell doesn't make him a good cop. There's a response here. I just don't understand people's ideology. Tamara Palomino, where is your head? She says there is something wrong there. After he spit on a police without a weapon, doesn't mean the cops had the right to beat him. Where's the humanity? Stop treating humans worse than you would an animal. Yeah, well, what about the cops? Stop treating the cops like they're shit either. How would you like someone trying to bite your leg? What would be your response? Absolutely ridiculous. They're not beating him. If anything, I think they were pretty nice. He was very intentional. He punched him in the ribs. He didn't punch him in the face. He didn't punch him anywhere that was going to cause any serious pain, just temporary pain. This is absolutely ridiculous. I just don't know where your head is. What about stop treating the cops like shit? Because if you treat the cops like shit, how are they supposed to protect the public? Absolutely ridiculous.
I just like, it is what it is, bro. So, it is what it is. It's just people don't understand what they're looking at. So we gave you the policy. We broke it down. All last week and even into this week, like people were calling me from the media, asking me like why I was saying what I was saying. And I'm like, look, and they're like, what do you, have you ever done a protest? I was like, yeah, I policed thousands of them in my career. I've been to every major event in New York City, multiple times throughout my 18 years. I think I went to New Year's almost every single year, Thanksgiving Day Parade almost every single year, every Juve, West Indian. I'm like, yeah, I've been at all these protests and I know from what I know and what I've done, just seeing on the video, not even knowing what I know from people that were there, just seeing the video, I could tell that this was completely mismanaged and not a way that we've ever policed protests before. Post 2020, we started policing protests like that. And then the protest settlement agreement that we started policing protests like that. And it's the same thing here. I'm listening to people who never did this type of work, who never dealt with emotionally disturbed people. Like what do you think Mondani's Department of Community Safety is going to do with this individual? I'll tell you what they're going to do. They're going to call 911, and then they're going to Monday morning quarterback these cops the same way. And they're not going to understand police procedure. They're going to create hesitation. They're going to create confusion. They're going to make situations more volatile. And at the end of the day, you're never going to alleviate where violence at some point has to be deployed. 4 to 5 strikes while the man was attempting to bite him. The minute he let go of attempting to bite him, the officer stopped and they controlled his head. They did absolutely nothing wrong. They treated him humane. And again, nothing really happened here. 221-01, use of force policy clearly states it. We showed you that policy over and over again throughout this episode. We read it. If you're on the job, you should know both 221-01 and 02 in and out cold, because that is going to be your justification onto why, unfortunately, sometimes you're going to have to use force. But we're making like this man was beaten and mistreated. He took 5 shots to the ribs and he went about his business. They got him to the hospital, got him help, and I'm sure he's fine today.
Yeah. I see a comment in here about I'm not sure if you're trying to conflate the actions of that cop with being a corrupt cop, Tamara. I mean, it kind of sounds like you are right there, but that's something else that I've noticed happening a lot lately too. People conflating, usage of force, something they see on camera that looks bad. That first of all, they don't know that it's justified. They think it looks bad, and now the cop is looked at as being corrupt. Okay, that again, we talked about this a couple episodes ago. How the bar for corruption is soon approaching white socks. Okay, so if you're that cop wearing white socks, you're going to be corrupt soon. And by the way, I expect I'm expecting Eric Sanders to come on and conflate the two soon too with this incident. These cops as being corrupt when that's not the case. Okay, and I also, just to go back to that comment, she says, I back the blue, but I don't back corrupt cops, right? The more you conflate stuff like this with corrupt cops, right? Which, funny enough, the same people who think like this don't criticize the actual corruption that comes from the top down these days as much as they should, right? The more you do this, you're going to see the more able-bodied cops who understand usage of force and know when to use the proper amount of force and justify it, right? They're going to go elsewhere. They're going to go to those areas where people appreciate them. And you're going to get the further balkanization of America. So your blue cities will continue to be shitholes, okay, like they are today. Whereas the good areas, the red areas, are going to continue prospering, okay? So this is the danger of what's happening today. Tucker gave a interview with Professor Zhang, I think it was a couple of days ago, and he talked about how much the cities look like shitholes now, and this is what's coming as a byproduct of all of this.
And it's interesting. I'm glad you brought that up, and you brought that point. First of all, I just want to say I think Tamara is not having an honest conversation. I think that she says she backs the blue, but has an issue with corrupt cops. I mean, we have an issue with corrupt cops too. So I don't understand what you're saying. We don't want any corruption, but when we talk about corruption, mostly it's at the top. It's the leadership. Are they corrupt cops? Sure, but they're not going to be so blatant. And this idea that a cop using force is potential corruption, this is absolutely ridiculous. And that's why it's not an honest conversation. But Marlon, to your point, if you look at these blue cities throughout this country that are a shithole, what's the one common theme? Is they have legislators, the media, and the public that are anti-police. That's the common denominator in these cities that are shitholes. Shitholes because they're anti-police. And if you're anti-police, you're anti the fabric of society. You don't want a good society. We're not saying your police should be redcoats. We're not saying your police department should be stormtroopers, but you need a police force. And you need a police force just as much as we've said numerous times. John, Marlon, and myself has said that it's important to have a police force to ensure there's no violence, but also to protect your First Amendment rights, your Bill of Rights as they are, right? You want to be able to have the Second Amendment right to carry firearms, and you need a police force to protect those rights. You want to have First Amendment rights, and you need a police force to protect those rights. So that's why we need SRG at protest in New York City. Why? We want people to feel safe while they exercise their First Amendment rights. And how can they feel safe if the police aren't there? And you are in a very vulnerable situation in New York City or any city in this country where there are mass gatherings and potential for terrorism, whether it's foreign or domestic, and you need the police there. And that's the common theme. In these blue cities in this country that are shitholes, they have the same common theme. They're anti-police. There's anti-rhetoric. And I think people have this misnomer of what a corrupt cop is. Do cops make mistakes? Yes. So, and unfortunately, it's come to the point where there are a lot of people who have this vision and their understandings that if a cop makes a mistake, it's a criminal matter. And that's not the case at all. That's not the case at all. If a cop makes a mistake, it could be administrative error. It could be something different. It doesn't necessarily equate to something that's criminal. So, listen, Tamara, I appreciate your perspective and your takes. But yes, KB in New York City puts Michael Dow was a corrupt cop. Yeah, that's a good example. This cop here was not a corrupt cop. In fact, I think this cop should be commended. All these cops, I think they did a great job. They had a perpetrator. They used force. You may not like force, but it's necessary. It may be ugly to you, but it's necessary. And if you don't like, don't watch it. But those men and women are there using force. Why is it often that we praise our military? And I was military. We praise our military when they come home. Thank you for what you did. What do you think they did? They used force to keep you safe. But the only difference is you didn't see it. So you want to know that it's being taken care of. You just want to see it. So instead, would you rather just close your eyes and pretend it's not there? This is the reality. This is police work. This is how we keep people safe.
Yeah. Notice what's being praised about the Chief Aaron Edwards praise. It's him jumping over a barrier. It's not how the terrorist was actually stopped, which is what Polgran did, which was use force, right? That's what it is. Like, that's exactly what it is. Because why? Because, it's nice showing someone jumping over a barrier. It's not as nice showing Polgaren on top of the suspect, slamming him to the floor and hitting him with closed hand strikes, right? People don't like to see that. And that's part of the reason that's not there. The other thing that, I think that really, really annoys me, and I'm not even talking to any of these morons that like, because there's a lot of haters in here today because they have to prove, they have an agenda like the people who put this video out do. They have that same agenda. So I'm not acknowledging them any further today. But the thing that we're missing here is that we're trying to say that force never gets used ever. Like, good cops are guardians. They're not warriors. And it's so far from the truth. It's not even funny. Like, there's that old saying, I think George Orwell put it out. People sleep peaceably in their beds at night because rough men stand ready to do violence on their behalf. But the fact is, they don't want to see it. People don't want to understand it. They want to just be like, oh no, everything's good. If you're just a really nice person, you could not use force. And unfortunately, it's just not the case in life. So when we sit there and we point out the truth and we point out the reality of everything that's happening, a lot of people get really, really offended by it. Nobody will debate it. Nobody will come on here and debate it, but they'll get really, really offended. Right. And then instead of debating the facts, they'll just use ad hominem attacks, like coming after you. Oh, you're this, you're that. And it's like, okay, whatever. The bottom line is this. Even after that potential terrorist attack that failed, and it failed not because it was thwarted by the NYPD, it failed because the two terrorists were morons. Even afterwards, they didn't get to the car of the terrorists for the next day. Do you know what they did the next day? The next day, they realized, oh, shit, these guys came from Pennsylvania. Oh, shit, where's their car? Oh, shit, they have car keys in their pockets. Oh, wait, maybe there's more explosives in their car. What they did after that, almost 24 hours later, is they asked patrol to canvass for vehicles. And guess who found the car? A patrol cop. Patrol cop within an hour. So within an hour of the scenario, we should have had the car, because what was in the car after they located the car? More explosives. So not only did they fail planning, they failed at the scene. And then afterwards, during the investigation, they failed miserably because they let that car sit on New York City streets for over 24 hours. And you don't hear anything about the cops that found the car. And you don't hear anything about Officer Grant Polgren, who was just put in the situation, was put to certain death, and actually reacted bravely and ran towards certain death. Unlike Chief Aaron Edwards, who ran to save a terrorist and held back the cop that was actually stopping him. So we make him the hero. You know, so he could get the Guardian of the Year award, but he definitely ain't getting the hero award for me. And same thing's true with these guys. What, the hero is the guy that's telling you that this cop is wrong for not getting bit. He should have got bit, Mo. Should have got bit. Sorry, that's not the hero here either. The hero is this cop that is trying to help this guy and get this guy, but he's at the same time he's also trying not to get AIDS or anything else and get bit. You know. And Juju says, breaking, John McCarry never made a mistake when I was a cop. No, I made plenty of mistakes when I was a cop, but I didn't completely fail at planning an event, fail in the investigation of an event, fail during it, and then sit there and pretend like I'm a hero. I just never did that, you know? And Nick, could you list all the details you worked? Yeah, every single one. Anything that you've ever seen in New York City during my 18 years, I did almost every single detail. Yeah, multiple times. So sorry, I didn't have my daddy on the job like you, Nick.
You notice what's convenient in both arguments that you know the critics of this incident, the you know the cops subduing the EDP, and Edwards. Well, think of it, the EDP in this case is black, okay, and the cops are using force on the EDP, right? And in Edwards' case, again, he's black, token, okay. So it's you can't listen to their disingenuous arguments and not consider the fact where you know, certainly in the case of the Sanders Network, right? You know where they're coming from on that. So,
listen, I think we beat this case up, and I think we showed that stolen valor, used valor, and Edwards is down this rabbit hole, and we lost integrity. I think that's the biggest part. And yes, we all make mistakes. John made mistakes on the job. Marlon did. So did I. I made plenty of them, and I learned from them. But what we didn't do was lie about the positions we were in, and we value our integrity. And that's why we're all retired or we've left the job, because we valued our integrity. Detective Nolan puts abuse valor. Yes, stolen valor, abusive valor, used valor. Either way, it's disingenuous and it's not true. It's just not honest. And yes, is Edwards being used because he's black? That's definitely part of it. Because being black, we can't talk about it, because if you talk about it, you're racist, just like we are here, right? We're not racist because we're talking about this, because they want you to deflect from what's really happening. What's really happening is they totally fucked up. It was a big mistake, and thousands of people could have lost their lives. Instead, what we do is we make Edwards the hero. We put our focus on him, and that eradicates. We can't talk about the failures, because if we do, we're not racist. So that is ultimately the plan, and that's been the template they've been doing. It's 2 hours and 56 minutes into it. I want to say to our friends, listeners, and even the trolls, like, share, and subscribe. We appreciate it. Like, hit that hype button. Find us Unfiltered. This is the right take. We provide a lot of evidence. No one else is going to give you the take that you got here today, because they don't want to be called racist. But we've been down that road before. You can call us what you want, but you're still watching. We appreciate it. So with that being said, let's get to the coffee and donuts. I want to thank everyone who's contributing. I know some people said they're having trouble donating with the chat today. If you like, you can go to our website at defianceunfiltered.com. You can make donations there. We accept coffee and donuts there. But if not, if you're just watching, we appreciate it. Thank you so much for engaging in the conversation. The trolls also. I appreciate the opposition here. Opposition meets opportunity. And we get to see what people's heads are, and just completely disingenuous and don't understand the realities of policing. And for people like Izzo and Sal, you have to remember why you started this. What was the original mission? You have to go back to it, because you're losing focus and you're losing the mission. It's unfortunate, but don't let your emotions get in front of you and get boxed into situations that now you can't make a proper assessment on use of force cases moving forward. So
I just can't wait to hear Jack's take, because it's going to be great. You know,
I'm sure Jack wrestled with a lot of perpetrators before.
No, yeah, no, I'm sure.
You don't think so?
Getting stuffed in lockers at high school was probably like that experience will definitely.
Now, if you get stuffed in a locker, don't you could probably thrash around and thrash around and see if you can get out of there by if your hands are behind your back, to get out by using your hips. Yeah, you know.
I guarantee the patrol guy will be brought up and misrepresented. They'll hook on a line and never go on the line that we used. That actually talks about when the perp's handcuffed.
Uh-oh.
You know, there might even be a civil rights attorney on there, like civil rights, who doesn't actually
you think so?
fight for civil rights.
Absolutely. Absolutely,
Yeah.
he's gonna be on there.
And maybe there might even be a use of force expert cop commentator on there too.
Let's ask Nin if he thinks Eric Sanders will be on there today. Nin, what do you think? Nin, you're not there? Nin?
Yep, the GM is calling the bullpen right now. Yeah,
There must be
up there.
I think there's a briefing going on right now. Jack's there right now. Sal's there right now. Eric Sanders. Nin, what do you think they're talking about?
Yeah. So that's it. So look, the truth sucks, right? We showed you one cops did nothing wrong, and then we showed you the thing that you're celebrating isn't really something that you should be celebrating. So that's why we get it all around. We're anti-cop, we're pro-cop, we're it's like we get it all. The truth is the truth. The truth is the truth. So we're not going to shy away from it. So for those of you that butt hurt, go. If you got your ladies' days, go out. I heard CVS got 2 for $1 on the tampons. Use those, stick them in. And
oh God.
All right, ladies. All right, here we go. All right, let's do the coffee and donuts. So. All right, NYPD 8311 $9.99. Another great show. Looking forward to tonight's show. It's talking about the executive perspective. What time is that again? 17:05.
John, you have no idea.
Or 5:05 p.m. Eastern time. I got this.
You got it.
Even the detractors are entertaining. They'll never be real police, but scary to think that they're MOS. Totally agree. Yeah, definitely make sure you check out executive perspective tonight. I'm actually looking forward to hearing the Guardians Power Hour. I haven't watched. I'm not going to lie. I haven't watched. I got sent a few clips from a bunch of people, but I'm definitely going to watch this one. This one I'm going to watch.
You think Nin's going to watch, or he's going to be part of it?
No, I think they're going to do what they normally do. Watch this show, draft their talking points, then have the show,
Well, who was it? Who was this NYPD 83? My eyes are going, man. Thank you for the coffee, Dons, brother. Appreciate it.
Yeah. So make sure you guys check out Ron and Rob tonight. They're going to break it down from the executive perspective, but I want to hear it from the getting stuffed in the lockers perspective too. I want to hear how you use when I was getting stuffed in lockers, what I would normally do, I would just let them bite me.
I want to know what it's like to nibble on someone's ankle.
Yeah.
What's that like when you fight back? When you bite the ankle, it's just to stop them.
Yeah, and I as someone who's been arrested and been handcuffed more times than I've been arrested, but as someone who's been arrested twice and been handcuffed a bunch, I never really got beat up by the cops. You know why? Because I didn't try to bite them or fight with them. So
He was just, John and Marlon, you guys are missing the point. He bit his pants. Not his leg. Just his pants. Okay.
He wasn't trying to. Yeah, he wasn't trying to get the skin. He was just trying to.
I like that take. Oh, he's biting his pants. Oh. Yeah, that's great.
100% that gets brought up, by the way, Eric.
Oh, absolutely. And then it's cotton, will break.
I really want to know how you step back in that situation though, because your legs just spread out. Do it right now. Try to do a squat and then try to kick your leg back. You can't do it. It's what are you talking about? Just kick your leg out. You'd have to bring your leg towards him to rip it out. You know what I mean? You'd have to bring it towards him first, which would open you to get bit. It's it's the stupidest thing.
I'm gonna have my dog chew on my pants later and see if I can do this. Keep working. See how this works out.
All right, let's go. It's told you so back when. Excuse me. Cops think they are so tough when they are the weakest people in society. The vaccine mandate put it on full display for the world to see. Dude, nailed it. I'm sorry, nailed it. Biggest cocks ever. I was like, wow, I thought you guys had balls. How wrong was I?
Yeah, in New York City, dude. He says Jack probably going to accuse the officers of probably not being animal lovers. That's hilarious. Oh my God.
Of not being what?
He's gonna accuse the officers of not being animal lovers.
Yeah, no.
Hey, I told you so back when. Thank you so much. We appreciate the coffee and donuts. You're 100% right. Spot on.
The Smith 72, Bedford and Montgomery. Patrol getting his butt kicked. Sal froze, didn't even reach for the radio, and moonwalked. So who's giving advice on tactics? Oh, we didn't know about this. He never told us about this, Mikey. Bedford and Montgomery.
Mike, you got some secrets you got to tell us, brother.
You got some stories we don't know about. Wow. But
Thank
again, that's what I'm saying is like, like when you hear people not giving, just criticizing, not talking about the patrol guide, not thinking around it, not talking about their experience and what they would have done, just saying it's wrong and not saying what should have been done, it's because they're inexperienced and they don't, what they would have done is not being involved in that situation. They would have let the other cops handle it.
Yeah.
And you've seen it. How many jobs have you been on? You've seen the guy standing in the background.
It's funny, right? It's funny how people's perception, because one time I'll never forget, I was at the DA's office and my cops, and I was involved in a situation. We had to make several arrests, and some of the cops had to charge some people involved. The crowd gets crazy in the Bronx with OGA, obstructing governmental administration. And like, oh, they weren't really in the way. I don't understand. This is ridiculous. I'm like, they're impeding the cops from doing their job. They're having to look to divert their attention. So we're New Yorkers. We talk with our hands, right? I was in the DA's office. And I was talking with several ADAs. And when there was an ADA standing like shoulder to shoulder with me, we were kind of like standing in a circle having a conversation. And I was talking with my hands. And I was talking by accident. My hand got close to her face as we're talking. And she jumped back. And I go, look how you just jumped back and we're just having a conversation. And yet you don't want to charge these perpetrators with OGA by getting into a crowd and hovering over the cops while they're making an arrest. I said, I hope that's a teaching point. And that's my point. Perception is key. And perception is reality.
100%, dude. It's wild. It's wild to listen to the nonsense, dude. It really is. It's completely wild to listen to it.
Yeah.
So many, like everyone's, what I used to love when you're doing crime, you're like, yeah, you guys are all doing illegal shit, making unconstitutional stops. And I'm like, no, you just don't know how to do your fucking job. Like, you just don't know how to do your job. You're just a lazy fuck. So it's better for you to think, oh, there's no way you guys are able to get this stuff legally. So you must be flaking people. That's just the you just don't know your job. So it's just it's easier for you to think that. And that gives you comfort knowing that, like, well, I'm not a shit cop. Those guys are just doing stuff illegally. It's like, no, you don't know your job. And then that same guy's like, yeah, you know what, Mo? I called you guys over here because the car stinks like weed, and then you guys are allowed to search for it. And I'm like, what? I'm like, dude, you're a cop. I have no more authority than you do. You just don't know your job. Like, you handle the job yourself.
Oh, I know exactly what you're talking about. How many times I come into the command with me and my guys, we're coming in with a gun, and then you always go get those cops who look over. They go, oh, wow, how'd you get that one? You're like, oh, yeah. We just randomly stop people and search them. Is that what you're insinuating? Exactly, because you don't know how to get it. Yeah, spot on, brother. Spot on. You know who you are, by the way, those cops.
Who's this Cop Talk Live? They're saying, so step back and rip the fabric from his teeth. Guarantee a leg moved backwards would have easily ripped the pant leg fabric from his teeth. Who the hell is this?
An idiot. That's who it is.
Isn't that Dom Izzo?
I don't know. Is it?
I think it is Dom Izzo.
Let me look it up.
I wonder. Did Dom? Did you and Salah talk? Is like all of a sudden you're very talkative about this topic. I again, you're welcome, dude. You're welcome to come on here and debate it. So
yeah, it is Dom. It is Dom. It is.
Yeah, step back, rip the pants. Okay, yeah. Whatever. Reyes, Reyes, we appreciate you, brother. Reyes 7115 donated $9.99 to the podcast. We appreciate you, brother.
Thank you for the coffee donuts.
Upstate Detective, he says, good morning, brothers. Got bit through my pants and the perp drew blood. Some people don't have a clue unless they are in situations. Yeah, I think people hold cops to impossible standards, and like the simple thing is they'll just never be in that situation because they're cowards. Like, that's it. They'll just never be in that situation.
I don't know what Dominic's talking about, because I guarantee, Dominic, if I just put my both hands on your ankle, not even butting, just holding your ankle, good luck just trying to pull your leg out. Good luck.
Dom does martial arts too. So like Dom, do a squat and pull your leg back. Tell me how you do it. And now do it when there's force there. You can't do it when there's no force there. Do it when there's force there. Do a squat over something and pull your leg back. Show me how that works without pulling your leg, without moving your leg to get force towards him to get bit. You can't do it. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with rib strikes. There's nothing wrong with it. We were taught to do that just for compliance to get someone's hands when they were sitting on their hands. So come on, let's not pretend like this cop was holing off on these guys and these were punitive things.
These guys are losing the mission, man.
It might be good content. Maybe it's good content, and all the anti-police cops, or all the anti-police people, because there's a lot of them out there. You'll get a lot more traction. But I don't know, man. I think we showed what the New York State Penal Code says and what the NYPD Patrol guide says. I mean, it's irrefutable.
I like Dominic, but he lost the mission here, bro. And like you said, if it's for likes, this ain't gonna last long, because the next time there's a use of force case that is damn right the cops did a good job, you just box yourself in, because we're gonna jump all over and say, "Oh no, last time you said that's not good. Why is this one good?"
Yeah. Oh, just pull your leg away. Oh, he could have just ran away. Anthony F3021 says, new listener, 1 year retired, haunt to comment in real time because working private says good, different views. Yeah, well, look, we're open to different views, I mean, and it's fair,
Thank you, brother. Thank you, Anthony. Coffee Donuts, we appreciate it.
516 Diecast says, present for duty. Good morning to all. As always, spot on, true talk. Thank you, brother. My visual zone. Too bad Mondani wasn't in office. He could have sent in the community safety and all would be good. When can we get the community safety ball gags, Eric?
Oh, those are coming soon, brother. I'm sure they come. Edwin should have had a ball gag on when he was trying to pull Garrett off the perpetrator who just tried to kill them. Ridiculous. Get him a ball gag.
Nemesis cider. I don't know. I'm not good at these things for some reason.
This is
my eyes are going.
That's my guy.
Whatever, but he says lots of police officers with experience of PPOs and a few cops in here. Great show, guys. I honestly, I don't know, man. I think even the academy, you're going to be trained, and like the cops like that are out there like defending this, like saying that they did something wrong. They boggle my mind even more, because it's like, dude, you're putting yourself in impossible situations. Like you're giving yourself, well, if then, but this, and then basically the cop's always wrong. And if you add this and you add that, you're going to get racism, and the cops are brutal and they all deserve to be fired. Look, I got forced out of my career. Marlon got fired. Eric got forced out of his career. And none of us are bitter and hate the police department and want to just see the same thing happen to other cops. Like, we literally care about institutional policing. We care about the NYPD. We care about New York City. We care about the country. We're not just trying to come out and be like, yeah, fire them and fire that. And the corruption that we pointed out and that we've been pointing out for the last 3 years is actual corruption. Stealing taxpayer money, shaking down businesses, misusing police resources. That's actually corruption. If there is a violent use of force, an unnecessary use of force, we show that. If it's an excessive use of force, we show it. This is not that at all. It was never that. This is I got fired, so everybody should get fired. That's what that is.
Yeah, I think when you're in this space, and you're this law enforcement podcaster space, right? I think people have to, get a grip and stop you gotta stay on point and not get like intimidated by the left, intimidated by the establishment, I think too many times a lot of people they want to appeal to the left and appeal to the establishment and mainstream media, They keep wanting to be the mainstream, and in doing so, they kind of shift their opinions, when they know better. But I think they've just been too mesmerized by becoming like a quasi celebrity, And I think unfortunately that's what we're seeing here,
Mikey G, I love you, brother, but I don't agree on this one. He says opinions like assholes. Everybody's got one. And they all stink unless you've done the job as a police officer. I agree. Everyone has excuses. He says you have no right to comment. That part I don't agree. If you weren't a cop, yeah, I think you do have a right to comment, but you have to be honest and say I was never a cop. and this is what I see, and then be willing to be educated on it by other cops saying, hey, well, this is what we see. That's what I say. Yeah, you have a right to comment, but don't say what the cops should do or what they shouldn't do because you haven't been there, but comment on what you see and make a fair assessment. That's what I think on it. What are you guys' thoughts on that? I think people should be able to make opinions. I don't think that, well, I wasn't a cop, I can't say anything. It's almost like saying you're watching a football game and you can't comment about the game that you watch. So that part.
No, it's America. Everybody's entitled to their opinion. But when you speak from the authority of a police officer, I mean, then I think like at that point, you should be giving a fair perspective. It shouldn't be an uninformed opinion. You should be giving it, and not just based on your experience, but also based on the rules that you're guided by and the procedures that you're guided by and how you were trained. Striking someone with a closed fist in their ribs is a trained tactic. Is it authorized when someone's handcuffed? No. But is it authorized when someone's handcuffed and they're attempting to bite you or escape or assault you? Yes. So it's like, you know, like that's my whole point is like, I hear what you're saying, Mikey. Like I just take those comments less. They're just not well-informed opinions, you know? And that's why like listening to the news and listening to guys who really just speak on the news and they're just talking heads, like I don't take what they say about geopolitical, national war. I don't take what they say at all. Same way I don't take what they say about law enforcement and policing or politics because they're not really experienced people in it. And so like if you haven't done the job and you don't understand the procedures that people are guided by, then you're entitled to your opinion, but understand it's an uninformed opinion, you know? And yeah, 100% it's misinformed opinions to control the narrative. I'm not saying they're not, but it's American and it's America and I'm not going to tell anyone to not have the give their opinion. But you know, it never fails on me. I never lose sight of the fact that these people aren't willing to debate the topic either. If you're willing to debate even with your uninformed opinion, I'm all good with it, you know, because we could have a conversation about it, right? I have a lot of uninformed opinions about things myself, and I'm sure you do too on other topics, you know. So, you know, especially Nick says I'm a beer expert too, but I haven't drank beer in I don't even know like 20 years. I don't drink, so like I don't know if this dude.
That's John.
But
John,
Nick, but I'll have an uninformed discussion about it if you like.
John, I think Nick gave you a lot of credit, man. He said you're an expert in self-defense, basketball, carpentry, home repairs.
How about haircutting?
And beer drinking. Nick, thank you very much. You know what?
Nick, Barber too. If you want, I'll shape you up, bro. 01.
John, he said you're an expert in all these things. You know what, Nick? We really appreciate. You know what? You're going to be the #1 fan. So, Nick, give us your address. We'll send you a T-shirt. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Look, Juju's an expert in solving crimes, just not actually being a cop. I mean, look at his book. You know.
Yeah, he's a great author.
He's a great author and a singer. And
I get what Mikey G's saying. I get it. And that's why I'm saying I think people are entitled to their opinion, but you're right. Have an educated opinion and have a fair assessment. Don't do it from a place of hate. I think most people, when they give their take on the police, they just hate the police so much. So they're so emotionally invested. And right away, they're just so negative about it. And the reality is they know deep down they wouldn't want to get bit either. So it's like everyone's living a lie.
Oh, sorry, Marlon. Joe says, John, is Nick the guy who curb stomped someone in handcuffs? Well, I'll tell you that guy's first name is Nick, so I don't know that that's him, but the guy who should have been arrested and prosecuted by Bragg for stepping on someone's head while they were convulsing and in handcuffs, yeah, that dude, yeah, he should probably, maybe, you know, maybe it's him, you know, maybe his first name is Nick, maybe. So very observant, Joe. I was thinking that, but I don't know. Yeah.
I gotta laugh. Ron says we could get him a Joe Cop T-shirt. Sure, we'll purchase it from Sal Greco and we'll send Nick a Joe Cop T-shirt. Hey, Sal, let me get a discount.
Were you gonna say more? Sorry, brother.
No, I was just gonna say I just don't think the people who are saying what they are having honest discussions. I think their arguments are disingenuous, and I think they're trying to appeal to the a certain fraction of their audience, or of the the mainstream media and celebrity and when you get certain when you get when you get so big at a certain point, you start being accepted by people who probably before they might not have liked you, and now it's harder for these people to upset them with a take that they may not like, as opposed to being unfiltered and giving the staying on the same course that they were when they were a nobody. Now that they become bigger, they don't want to upset people on the right. Upset people in the mainstream, regardless of which side they are. They want to take that's why you see people become more milk toast as they get bigger. Look at Dan Bongino. When he was a nobody podcaster, he could tell you anything. And now that he's gone through the Trump administration and he's back now, do you think you're getting an honest opinion from Dan Bongino? You think you're getting raw, unfiltered takes from him? No, you're not. You're never getting that again, because if he gives you that, he's going to upset the mainstream, and the mainstream media, who is now covering up for him as he was assistant director of the FBI, and not asking the tough questions of him. So that's what I think we're seeing happening here with the people who are the Sanders network, so to speak.
Hey, Hunter, I don't know what you're getting at here. I'm making some jokes about Jack, but you said he's a liberal progressive Jew. It sounds pretty anti-Semitic to me. I don't know if you know this, but when you call someone a Jew, it's anti-Semitic. You're supposed to say they're Jewish. So I don't know what you're trying to get here. And what does it matter that he's a liberal progressive Jew? I'm Jewish too. I don't know if you got a problem with that. I'm a Jew. So I don't know what that means. I really don't.
I'd say Jew. I didn't know that was anti-Semitic.
Yeah, it's actually considered, it's pretty derogatory. I hate when people say that, like, "Oh, he's a Jew." It's not a nice thing to say. But
one of my good friends is Jewish. He calls himself a Jew all the time. Like,
yeah,
I think it's context.
I guess it's how you put it.
Right, it's context.
Yeah.
Well, whatever.
Yeah,
it's all right.
So, what the hell? All right, yeah. So I guess that's it. Oh, last thing I didn't bring up, and I told the person I'd bring it up, is at the last city council hearing, Tish was talking about the 911 operators and how they're having a problem recruiting and retaining them as well. And there was the public safety chair asked her about the inordinate amount of overtime, because they're also being forced to do overtime. And a 911 dispatcher reached out to me and said, we're being ordered 3 to 4 tours a week to do 16-hour tours. And there's like no alleviation at all. And that's why people are leaving, and that's why they can't get anybody. It's highly mismanaged, as it always been. Might even be worse now under Tish. So I just wanted to put that out there, that like that, whatever she said, the 911 dispatchers are refuting. And she also said that having the dispatchers try to ascertain whether or not a call's violent or non-violent, as far as an EDP is concerned, is a disaster, because oftentimes when she was using the Be Heard or whatever they're called, when she would send them, she's like, first off, they work banker hours. They don't work on the weekends, and they pick and choose what jobs they want to go to, even if it comes over non-violent. She's like, and then even half the times when we send them, we still have to it's a huge delayed response, and then we still have to call the police in anyway. So she said the whole thing is going to be a disaster, and I hope I didn't give any details away, but like whatever. But that's just wanted to get that out there. So, all right. So before we get out of here, like we said, make sure you check out the Key. If you're looking to become an NYPD sergeant, go to the Key. Class is 18-week course. Live orientation, material distribution is going to begin on April 25th. The live in-person classes begin on Saturday, May 2nd. Class is $849, limited time offer. You could get it for $150 off with the code Finest Unfiltered 699, all one word, at checkout. It's not going to last, guys. So if you're even thinking about it, do it. Make the investment with the money, and then as soon as these classes start studying every day, 3 to 4 hours a day, and I guarantee you will be a sergeant. If you don't do that, then you're rolling the dice. Look, they made these tests easier, not harder, but that's not an excuse for you not to study. 3 to 4 hours a day, every day. You want to be a sergeant? I guarantee you're going to be a sergeant. and you're going to use the key to do it. So take advantage of this code while it's still there. Friday, we're going to have George Misfud and John Monahan going to come on. They're just going to talk a little bit about the key, and then we'll do our regularly scheduled episode. And then next Wednesday, we'll have John Monahan come on just to talk about his career and have him go through. So it'll be a couple of good episodes coming up. So yeah, guys, got anything else?
Yeah, listen, there's no doubt about it. We're not just selling a product. The reality is, I took the key and I passed the sergeant's exam, and I did well. Not only did I pass, I did well, and I really think they helped out a lot. They taught me how to learn when it comes to these tests, how to approach it, how to sit in that chair, how to actually learn and retain the information. The class is interactive. It kept me motivated, so I thank the key. The key works. Here, Nate 477 says here the key works. Key works. It's worth the money. It's an investment. It's not cost. If you really break it down, it's not a lot of money. You spend your money on stupid stuff. This is your future. If it cost you $1,699, I would have paid $5,000 for this class. In the end, you're getting a bigger salary, a bigger pension. This is for life. Take the test, pass the test, do well, take the key. There's no choice. You have to jump into it. So I wish you luck.
Yeah, what you said, just to go back quickly, John, that doesn't surprise me at all, because remember, Epps was not the highest overtime earner in the job. It came from civilians in 911.
That's right, Marlon.
There was somebody with over 2,000 hours of overtime, and that those hours, I was doing the math on it, and it's impossible to do that and not go home. They were either not going home, and I'm talking about sleeping in the job days, okay, or they were doing that overtime from home, okay. And there has been no follow-up on that on the job. There's been no articles about that. We don't know if anybody looked into that. So that doesn't surprise me.
What do you think is the threshold? What do you think is the threshold? Like, for how many hours a week would you say is like impossible? Because I'd come up with that number in my head too.
I forgot, but I actually did I was sitting down and doing the math, figuring out how much hours that you would need to do and have at least one day off. And right. I think it's a lot low. I think maybe like 1,300 or 1,200 or something like that a year. But I forgot the exact number. But I did it when we were talking about Epps and the overtime scandal way back when. But the other thing is that what's happening with Be Heard doesn't surprise me either, because the co-response unit, we used to have that problem all the time. Okay, they didn't want to go to that EDP, even if they were nonviolent by themselves, and which I asked many times, what was the point of even having them if we got to show up there, But
steel taxpayer
going on.
Steel taxpayer funds.
Yeah. Enrich the NGOs and community organizations. But anyway, there's a lot of stories, by the way, that are happening now that we didn't get to, and they came up while we were on the show. One of them is this. Somebody brought this to my attention.
Oh yeah,
that's nuts. If you look deep, if you dig further deep into what this exactly means. But the other thing is, the Rikers, the plan with Rikers Island to shrink the population is another one. That there's just so much going on in the news cycle now that I don't even know if we'll have time to cover it on Friday. But regardless, we thank you guys who showed up today, and we thank you for the super chats. And did we go over all of them? I guess we did, right? So yeah. Other than that, I'll see you on Friday. Yeah.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Hey, Hunter, listen, I know what you're saying. There are a difference between conservative Jews and liberal Jews, but the context
you
of
anti-Semitic bastard. No,
yeah. No, I'm not saying anti-Semitic. I'm just saying the way it came off, it doesn't come out right. I know I grew up, my grandmother hated, if anybody said, oh, that person's a Jew, and I always learned it's like very derogatory. There is context to it. I'm not saying you're anti-Semitic, and growing up Jewish, you learn to have a tough skin. There are a lot of anti-Semitic people, but it's okay. But I appreciate it anyway. But with that being said, check out the key, like, share, subscribe. It's almost 3 hours and 30 minutes into it. You want to laugh? The three of us said, hey, today's going to be a 2-hour show. It's almost two 2-hour shows. So we just love doing it. People are still staying with the show. We appreciate it. Thank you, everyone. Let's keep rocking. And listen, nothing we say is personal here, but it's honest. It comes from an honest place, and that's what we have to do. So Executive Perspective tonight. We love your show. Keep it going. Keep rocking. Thank you so much. John, close us out, brother.
Yeah, that's it, Nick. Statute of limitations still hasn't expired, so be careful, my friend. Tread lightly, my friend. Tread lightly. All right. Yeah, no, that's it, people. That's it. So, like we said, send this episode out. Make sure you get that code out. Find us Unfiltered 699. Have them go to the key links wherever you're watching or listening. Appreciate all you guys, even everyone that's giving us a hard time. That's good. But end the story. You could say what you want about us, but you're not going to say we're pushing a narrative, right? Because we piss everybody off. So, it is what it is. We're giving our honest opinion. And, if you don't like it, too bad. So find us Unfiltered. We'll be back at you.
There's a handful of retired officers that don't live in the state that have a lot to say about the dream team, as I like to call it. All of a sudden, they retire and have a master plan on how to fight crime, but nothing to contribute when they were here. They want to come back and be part of the dream team. What can I say?